Good morning. Welcome to the third day of the AED Days 2023. I would like to welcome all the participants for a new journey today with live sessions. And I give the floor immediately to António Gaspar from Inextech to run this first table. António, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, José. So good morning. My name is António Gaspar. I'm representing AED. I'm vice president, and I'm honoring to be a moderator for this workshop, Disrupting the Portuguese Industrial Landscape, looking at ongoing national programs, where we'll take a look at some new programs that are going to change completely the aerospace industry in Portugal. I have with me Francisco Cunha, CEO from Geosat, Ivo Vieira from Space is also CEO there. I have Frederica Guiar Branco, who is program manager at EEA, and Pedro Petriz, who is director of strategic development at Tekeva. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to Francisco Cunha, CEO of Geosat. Francisco, the screen is yours.
António, thank you very much. It's a pleasure for us as well to be here once again and to be able to share what have been the most recent developments in our industry, namely space in this case, and how these recent developments will have an impact in the overall Portuguese chain. So I would like to first start by a quick go through what is currently Geosat. Geosat is a company that is a Portuguese company that is actually one of the two European operators of very high resolution optical satellites. The other one is Airbus, for you to have a notion of what type of positioning we are aiming here. So we deploy a team of more than 50 people in Portugal, which is the headquarters, and also in Spain, people that bring more than 10 years of experience in operating satellites, processing imagery and delivering services based on them. And we have a satellite capability that accesses all places on Earth with a team that works 24/7, and that so far has been able to gather more than 6 billion square kilometers of imagery archive. So the satellites we are currently operating in their previous life were known as the Deimos satellites. Now it's Geosat 1, Geosat 2, a wide swath satellite, and also a very high resolution satellite that we are now taking to 40 centimeter resolution with the AI, also as validated by ESA. So what do we do? What is the product that we deliver? What we deliver, it's mostly imagery on one hand. For instance, one of the first launches of SpaceX this year, monitoring of wind farms, for instance, ports and airports. Also construction sites like the NEOM line in Saudi Arabia, allowing us to understand how many vehicles, for instance, are currently in that scenario. Are they moving? Is this evolving from one day to the other or not? And also, for instance, providing the before and after analysis, namely in forest fires, which unfortunately is something that we are starting to see again this year. This is also very important because even in terms of cataloging our land, the fires also require us to go there and watch what happens after, because after the fires, it is possible to identify divisions and boundaries between land parcels that otherwise weren't possible. So following these catastrophes, helping the replanting, the re-innovation work, but also taking an opportunity to look at land and what has happened in the meantime. Also, this before and after allows us to follow large infrastructure projects, for instance, like one of the Qatar stadiums, identify the uses of a certain city, for instance, or region, and also deploy some intelligence on top of this. For instance, here it was the people gathering for the funeral of the Queen Elizabeth II in London, and going to a more sophisticated approach, also having automatic identification of vessels, for instance, in the and the catalogation in the ocean. Finally, just another example more on the civil side, which is the identification, for instance, of the potential of the existence of lithium and other rare earths. This in case, for instance, white is the high probability, the yellow is the medium probability, so to say, to find lithium in the certain mine, in this case in Mexico. So this is where we are right now. What is the pathway that we are targeting? It's in fact renewing our satellite fleet with more advanced satellites and a broader capability. So we are looking at deploying capabilities in very high resolution. So being able to have very detailed images with daily revisit, so the 50 centimeter resolution, and also deploying what is being called so far the Atlantic constellation. Atlantic constellation being the scope of a partnership between so far Portugal and Spain, but other countries are gathering, and Geosat is taking care of the Portuguese component of this Atlantic constellation that will provide us with 3-hour revisit over every place on Earth. Just a quick overview on what are these constellations. They have the Atlantic constellation, the multispectral sensor, 8 satellites that together with the Spanish component, we are targeting 3-hour visit, and also the very high resolution satellite, a much heavier satellite that would allow the better than 50 centimeter resolution with what we call the visual and infrared bands. How are we doing this? And this is where the initial ideas and concepts for the New Space Portugal agenda, supported in the scope of the Portuguese Resilience and Recovery Plan, has come from. Geosat also aiming at further developing this capability and further developing the business opportunities that we have now understood that exist in the market, has set up an agenda. But the idea was for the agenda not to be just contained to around Geosat's goals. So we deployed a consortium of nearly 40 entities. We have, well, some of them here, and Yves will also discuss, Lusospes will also present a project that's also fitting in the scope of this agenda. But to make sure that this opportunity that we consider a unique opportunity in Portugal is used not only to make sure that we have a next step in terms of our business model, but also that we can expand this effect to other entities and partners. Launched a satellite 30 years ago. You can also talk about that. And now we are already operating satellites in the market again. This is something that is a first. And so Portugal can say that Portugal is a flying nation with satellites that are performing Earth observation missions. This has allowed us to accelerate 5 to 10 years our strategy. It means that Portugal, we were incrementally developing capacity, prototypes, deploying satellites, and so on. And then now we are able to go and close to the market. As we usually say, we have learned more in 3 months operating satellites than in 3 years developing them, because the reality is a very harsh teacher. So we understand now what are the constraints and the requirements and the challenges of having day-to-day operations. And of course, it allows Portugal to have, as I told you before, one of the 2 very high resolution companies in Europe. With the New Space agenda, New Space Portugal agenda, what will we do? We will, of course, reinforce and maintain this position as a flying nation. We will develop the role of Geosat in the global and, of course, European markets, but we will extend what we call this phenomenon to other areas. We have very competent companies, very highly developed capacities in Portugal. And so we have joined forces with Lusospes, which is here, AED, which is working with the technological partner TechEver, also to be able to build 2 streams of additional capacity. So these companies will be responsible for developing a SAR constellation capability and also for developing maritime communication or VDES constellation capability that we'll hear from in the next few minutes from Lusospace. And so also broadening the scope of the Portuguese space industry, because what we see sometimes is that we have this chicken and egg problem, because if a company does not participate in a space project, it will not develop the track record in space. If the company does not have the track record in space, the company will not be able to participate in space projects. So we want to use also this agenda to break this cycle and to be able to bring more companies, more institutes, and more teams to the space activities. To do this, we are following two parallel streams. One which is operational. So first one is that we need to have satellites flying in 25. We need to buy some of the technologies outside the country, and we are counting on foreign direct investment to make sure that we are able to internalize these technologies in Portugal. And the national technology will fly if it is qualified for the purpose. But at the same time, in parallel, we are developing a capacitation stream in which we are developing the different subsystems and systems according to the real requirements of satellites, and we'll do a TRL assessment to see which is the technology that is ready to fly now in 25, and which is the technology that will support the satellites that will fly in 28, 30. And of course, developing this baseline capabilities. So all of this is what leads us to call this project the project that will change the face of the Portuguese space industry, because in fact it provides us with a capability that is unprecedented, that we might say that is almost at the same level as some of the developments that occurred after Portugal entered ESA. So this is a unique opportunity. We are starting now, so the time also to engage companies and to be able to reach new partners through the outreach effort is now, and we look forward also to discuss it during this session. So thank you, Antonio, and I will now deliver the screen back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Francisco, right on time. So I will now pass the floor to Ivo Vieira, who is CEO at Lusospace, and I will present another component, another vertical of the same agenda. Ivo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Antonio, for this opportunity. And so I will present the project Hatton, Atlantic Observation Network, which was said by Francisco, is part of the New Space Portugal agenda that Geosat has been setting up and leading. What is the Hatton? So it is Atlantic because it's focused over the Atlantic Ocean, but of course it's scalable to other regions. So what we mean is that we will focus for sure over the Atlantic, but the satellites, they will orbit all around the world, so we can use the system everywhere. Then observation, we are not using visible spectrum, but we are using IS VDS to track ships, and I will explain this later. And finally network, because we have a constellation to have a lower visit time of this system. So what is IS? IS is a system that is quite old. It has maybe 20 years, it's almost 20 years old. It provides, it's a system that is on board the ships that provides GPS position and the vessel identification, so that we can control the maritime traffic, avoid collisions, among other applications. So this is a mature technology. It's done through satellites, but also to some towers over the coasts. And now there is a new system that is going to be deployed, which is VDES. The difference between the VDS and IS is that the VDS allows ships to send very short message. So it's a bidirectional message. And so there are many potential applications, as an example, sending weather information, sending emergency messages, and also we believe that for autonomous ships, this kind of system is also important. Last but not least, VDS allows encryption, so it's a much more secure system than IS. And so what is the solution? The solution is a constellation of 12 satellites. It could increase in the future. I mean, this is the objective. 12 is the minimum that was assessed as being good for providing a minimum quality of service for the users. The payload is composed of a VDS transceiver for maritime communications, and of course an antenna for the propagation of the signal and the reception. Then we have another approach, which is a lean approach. We are going to use augmented reality for the assembly, integration, testing of the satellites. These satellites, they will be manufactured, integrated here in Lusospace premise in Lisbon. And we are going to use augmented reality because augmented reality allows to decrease the time of production, to decrease the errors, provide also some traceability about the integration. So we believe that this will be good for decreasing the cost of the satellites. And we want also to invest in low-cost ground stations and network, so that we can also decrease the cost of operations, which is also very important. So our approach is to have strategic partnership with established suppliers of satellites. We are going to have very small CubeSat satellites, 3U or 6U. This is still being assessed, so that we can really have a very cheap system and fast system. So we'll use existing platforms and we'll upgrade with propulsion and a new cheaper antenna. So this will be mainly the development that will be done during this project. As said before, so Lusospace was kindly invited by Geosat to develop this project here. And this vertical, this project of VDS, has other partners, IT for the design of the antenna, Energy for the mechanical design of the antenna, FHP for the manufacturing qualification of the antenna, and ISQ for testing and launch support. And Lusospace is responsible of system engineering, production, and launch. And that's all. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please.
Well, thank you very much, Ivo. You surprised me. Minutes. So now from space to aeronautics. Also an agenda inserted in the Resilience and Recovery Program of Portugal. I will give the floor to Federica Guiar-Branco, who is a program manager at EEA, and we will present a light regional aircraft program. Federica, the floor is yours. You are muted. You are muted. Sorry. You are still muted, and we lost the screen.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, perfectly.
So as I was saying, unfortunately, Miguel could not be here today. So I hope I can still match our expectations in terms of what the light regional aircraft is and what we aim to do on this program. This is the largest investment on Aeronautics Portugal. We're talking about 68 million euros, more than half of the investment, where the main goal is to fully develop a light aircraft for regional use from concept to certification, and includes the engineering activities of aerostructures, systems, engines, propulsion, tests, and certification processes, in an integrated way and for a complete aircraft for the first time in Portugal. The aircraft is in the light regional category, as it was mentioned, designed as a new generation of multidisciplinary logistics platform for passengers and cargo, and with a hybrid slash electric engine. I will go through some of the 7 projects that consists of this program. The first one is the complete development of an aircraft concept. Is designed as a multifunctional passenger transportation platform up to 19 seats. It is called Luz 222 Luz in regards to Lusitanos, where we as Portuguese are known for, and the numbers are 2 engines, 2,000 range of reach, and 2,000 kilos of cargo. So that's the reason for the name of the aircraft. It is designed from ground up to incorporate both conventional propulsion systems and new energy sources. All the development phases of an aeronautical product are considered, from design, definition of the aircraft architecture, the system needed to meet performance and operational requirements, to the final designs for manufacturing and assembly, as well as reaching a necessary documentation for the certification of the aircraft and the assembly and functional validation of the first prototype. As for a second project, we will develop a complete flight simulator. It aims to certify a full flight simulator for the light regional aircraft, meaning that is a device fully representative of the cockpit and avionics, as well as its flights and navigation systems and flight performance and quality for pilot training in ground, flight, and navigation procedures. This project consists of an evolutionary process that will ultimately result in a flight full simulator certified by the EASA, and it will incorporate 2 points. The R&D results performed for a training simulator consisted with a representative mock-up of the aircraft cockpit and the use of motion platform with 6 degrees of freedom and the use of visual system design according to EASA requirements. As for the third project, we will develop mission systems. This means that the aircraft will be easily convertible to passenger transport, cargo in standardized containers, medical emergency or a parachute mission, among many others, through the incorporation of mission system with the innovative characteristic of using real-time and partial operating system and the configuration of distribution computational models and interfaces. As for the lines of technological development, there will be 4 areas focused on the new materials and with studies for the incorporation of additive manufacturing technology, studies for the optimization of production processes when considering tools in additive manufacturing, studies for the optimization of maintenance process incorporating augmented reality, and finally, studies for incorporation of new technology sources, namely hybrid and electric propulsion system, or using ammonia batteries, and also studies for the development of an auxiliary power unit, APU, or operated with hydrogen. One of the most interesting projects is also the construction of a finally assembly and maintenance line. It consists in the conception, design, and construction of the necessary infrastructure for the implementation of an aircraft. The preparation and the adequacy will be on Ponte Sur Aerodrome, with access preparation, construction of institutional engineering building, assembly and storage hangar, and fuel center and the flight line. As for the qualification and internationalization project, this aims to qualify EEA as an aeronautical design and production assembly entity by the international reference entity, which is EASA, and the national agency ANAC. In order to accelerate this process of the light regional aircraft product production, the support of a second identity already qualified for this purpose is considering resulting in a spillover effect of a business environment in Portugal, as well as an actualization of the program timeline. As for the final project, it is related to HR. It will be the capacity of building a plan associated with the development of an aircraft This project considers the technological training actions required to train the engineering team during the aircraft development process, as well as those for qualification and preparation for the ASA certification process. Going through the value chain, the light regional aircrafts products and processes and services are aligned with all the agenda objectives as they contribute to a complete manned product. A light aircraft produced in Portugal, which reinforces the position on the domestic value chain in a transversal and uniformed way, self-supplying its needs and reducing external dependence, both in terms of technological advances, products and equipment, and services and processes. By being placed at the forefront of technology, this renewed sector will have the skills and capabilities to strengthen its level on a national supply and compete international with great potential for future growth. As you can see on the slide, we can see the international value chain for aeronautical program. We're on the middle phase, and the areas in white is the ones that we are not yet integrating, but we hope by the end of this program that we can fulfill the entire line that you can see in orange. Also, the commercialization of the aircraft will give dimension not only to the investment already made previously, but in particular to the empowerment and consolidation of the whole set of first, second, and third line suppliers, essential to secure economic and social value to the capacity installed in the country. These PPAs also contribute to the integration of a whole set of competencies created in Portugal at the level of aerostructure engineering, design, with the integration of aircraft systems, avionics systems, structural tests and test capabilities, with the capacity of verification and validation through tests and certifiably and throughout the life of aircraft, the company's maintenance and repair. The development of these PPAs will enable access to technological digitalization, the level of 3D manufacturing, new materials, or new application for natural materials. New digital tool for maintenance, which will allow at the national level a close collaboration with companies based in various regions, but also leverage their international competitiveness by also reducing costs, optimizing communications, and implementing new solutions and technology. In addition to accelerating the capture of knowledge and continuous improvement of services. This was my presentation. If anyone has questions after all, I'll be glad to ask. Thank you very much.
Just on time, Frederic, 2 more minutes. Thank you very much for being so focused. So we'll stay on the same agenda, but with a different sub-program, this time in the area of drones. So I will give the floor to Pedro Petriz, who is also the Director of Strategic Development at TechEver. Pedro, the screen is yours. Go ahead.
Hello, Antonio. Thank you very much for this opportunity to explain a little bit more about what it is X, which call me to the TechEver approach to the market, what we are doing and representing. So thank you very much again for this opportunity. And what I will explain a little bit for the audience is where we are on this. First of all, what is TechEver for those that doesn't know much about us, and then explain a bit, I think, more about what is X as an industrial program, what our goals and aims with this project, which falls under the recovery plan from Portugal program. Just some highlights about TechEver so that you know where we come from. We are a Portuguese company-based company. We have 3 facilities in Portugal. We have what we call our brain office from engineering side, where we develop our concepts at Caldas da Rainha. That is at the heart of TechEver. We have Ponte, where we have a manufacturing production facility, which we now need to extend because we are reaching our full capacity of production there. We also have a business office in Lisbon, most of all, where administrative and financial parts are located, but also where our IT systems, IT division also works. And then abroad, we have a company in UK, in Southampton, which is part of our core in development of products and technology.
Pedro, I
This
think
is
we
some-
will. So
Hello?
Pedro, can you recap a little bit on your locations, because we lost you there for a few moments.
Okay, so Caldas da Rainha is our engineering office. Southampton in UK is abroad from Portugal, which is also our development center. Consortium is a production facility in Lisbon, is our business quarters and IT division. So these are just a few numbers of the cover, but most of all what we do is and focusing on UAV division. It's about drones and about technology for drones, about building up this capability. It's not just components, it's a full package. So we host internally all manufacturing development capability to be able to provide to the market these systems. So that requires for us to manage and have the knowledge of all IPR technology that is required to put this kind of systems up to work. So our family of drones ranges from small drones, tactical to medium. And the next one that we'll present will be increasing this family of drones. That's what we're aiming at. And this comes from market driven. So we feel the urge to increase or extend our capabilities from operational level and service level. So just to give you a glimpse of what we have as a product. We also do, and we are mostly known for also providing what we call intelligence as a service. We're using drones to perform maritime and land surveillance. So we have a long track record now since 2017, providing this kind of service worldwide. We have a lot, more than 2,000 kilometers and 4,000 hours of simultaneous operations, flying operations, which gives us a very good insight of the not only technological needs, but also from the operational constraints. How at the end we want to deliver data, how we want to deliver critical information in due time. So this is our goal on the service side. And we combine drone information with other technologies, including satellite data, to provide actionable real-time intelligence. We are always talking about real scenarios, real situations on the moment happening, which we are providing extensive action. By actionable, I mean in due time, allowing for the forces of the countries to take action on what their goals. So things like pollution monitoring, migration control, or illegal fishing are some of the examples of the type of missions we provide. Just to give you some more insight of this, we've been doing this with a lot of our systems. We are being operated in several countries from Europe, most of all, and including the data that we are collected now are already acceptable in the court of law in some countries to prosecute illegal migrants and illegal fishery responsible for this type of activities. So we are not just a technology development company, we are providing a service with a good track record for our customers. So where does it come IRX, which is our next step? So what we're aiming now is extend our capability of this. IRX is part of the Aeronex program, as Frederic mentioned before. There were no UAVs, there were no aircraft completely done in Portugal except for the UAVs. These are our capability, and the AirX is part of this program. So it's a 40 million project project that is going to be performed in Lisbon and Alentejo Ponte and regional area in Portugal and Central, Caldas da Rainha. So our goal with this is to answer this question, how we can have more impact, how we can extend our customers, how we can provide more use cases response, and basically how we can deliver more for our customers. These are our drives, and we come up with these guidelines. Above all, it's not just a platform, it's a system. We need to be highly reliable and designed for certification, because drones until now class 2 were not required for that. It needs to be adaptable, and we need to have AI-driven technologies that support and enables new business models and innovation. So these were our guidelines, and for that we built up a consortium that combines 3 layers, let's say, of partners, from end users like Portuguese Air Force, the Navy, the Army, some institutional partners like AED and Consortium municipality, a lot of companies in Portugal from industry capability that with their expertise allow us to build this new capability. And of course, we need to involve also the scientific and technology entities from Portugal that help us not just develop what we are doing in RX, but also to project the future further extension of capability. So that's the consortium we come up with, and this project was organized in 6 lines. I'm not going to explain all of them. I will focus mostly on RX, but the message here is to say that it is not just about having one platform, one prototype. It's about building up a complete full capability, including skill sets, including production, including quality certification. So
2 more minutes.
Thank you. So what are we aiming at is on RX. So on the platform side, you have a multi-configuration platform. We have sensors, new type of sensors. You have data intelligence to exploit that data. There is also a pilot program for training class 2 and class 3 RPAS into the simulation. And we also include a couple of research technology and maturing technology developments, including hybrid propulsion, man-and-man teaming between unmanned systems and manned platforms, and including AI in different levels of the product, from the sensor data exploitation to the coordination of multi-platforms. So in a nutshell, this is what we aim at. And so our platform ends up with more or less these requirements. So we expect to have plus 24 hours endurance UAV, RPAS, a class 2 or a class 3 lightweight RPAS. And the reason this is because of configurations. Of course, we need SATCOM enable. We need extensive range of operations, because our main market is about the maritime operations, although we are aiming at also for the land, but Portugal is a very maritime country, which AeroNet requires a lot of monitoring. And we also need to have cargo deployment capability with the multi-mission performances. So starting from this, and just to give you some highlights, we are integrating a lot of new sensors coming up from the AI technology to fuse all this data into some information that makes sense to the operator and for operations. So this is a huge part of AI-driven. A lot of this what we are doing now, we are now moving to increase that capability, exploiting AI processes. And then there is also what we call a remote swap operations gateway, which is ability for ARX to be coordinating multiple of our drones and RPAS in a swarm configuration. This will provide us increasing flexibility. It is a challenge, it's one of our most challenges, but it's a very interesting capability that we want to bring to this product. And just for another example, we also aim to do Sonobi deployment, in particular to provide security for anti-submarine warfare or for protection of underwater critical infrastructures is currently a critical topic at European level. So I don't want to be too extensive. I just wanted to give you some feel of the project. And I just want to finish with a small video. So Antonio, that's it from my side. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm available for any questions and participate in discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pedro. So now we'll have time for a few questions. So we are open for questions from the audience. And just to gain some time, I have one question. So, but if the audience wants to submit some questions, then we'll forward to the speakers. So I have one question. So this is a very challenging projects with well, reaching production, which is new for the Portuguese industry. So each of your programs combine very diversified subsystems and competencies ranging from design to production and certification. And so were you able to find all the competencies here in Portugal? Can you comment on the contribution of the aeronautics, space and defense ecosystem in Portugal and their contribution to your programs? And do you have any insights, any comments on your consortium build-up? So it's a few questions, but around the same thematic. So I will give the floor to Francisco first. So we'll have a round, and I will ask everyone to comment on this topic. Francisco, please comment on this.
Antonio, thank you very much. Actually, the access to competencies is something that is quite critical, and namely because, as you have been seeing through these presentations, we are doing something new in Portugal in all of these areas. Some of them come from some continuity, but most of them come from doing things that we are not doing here yet. And this creates the need for professionals that are not here in Portugal. They might be Portuguese, but most of them are working elsewhere in Europe or outside Europe, doing system engineering and other types of activities. So in fact, that's a concern. I think the industry knows each other very well for many years, and this allows for having some, I would say, ethical approach even to the access to resources that avoids the cannibalization of the sector that would otherwise occur. Regarding the AED, for us, it's very important also the component of outreach. What we see at AED is that almost every month we have several new applicants for a membership. And so what we have been pitching for many years here in Portugal is that aerospace and defense is not a sector for a few restricted companies. It's a sector for excellence. And so companies from every other sector might have something to provide us with if they are able to meet the requirements. So as the industry overall develops, of course, we will have more companies and more institutions prepared to work in aerospace and defense. And for us, AED is leading the outreach component of the agenda, and that's a very important part because the core industry, we know it, but what we want to know is what is new in Portugal. What is appearing? What are the new capabilities? Which are the new companies? Which are the new technologies? And for that, of course, we count as AED as an advanced post for identifying these capabilities and making sure that throughout the development of our agenda, they are not left out.
Well, thank you very much, Francisco, for your comments. Ivo, what do you think about this?
Yes, I mean, in terms of competence, we try to develop this project taking into account already the competence of the companies and the institutes that are in this consortium. And so we didn't want to develop all the subsystems of the satellite. We decided to focus at least in the antenna because we have IT and energy with this kind of competence and the FHP with for the qualification and ISQ for the testing. But then, I mean, for the satellites, it's the first time Space is developing satellites. We have been developing equipment for 20 years. We launched more than 20 equipments on board satellites, but developing satellites, integrating satellites, it's really the first time. So we will get this competence mainly to the partnership with the current satellite providers. That's the strategy. And of course, this means that we will need to train people, existing people in the company, new people that we are going to hire. And this is really the strategy. And I agree with Francisco. We should avoid to take people from other companies or institutes, because if we do that, then it's escalation process that will not benefit anyone. So what we need to invest with these partnerships with experienced companies outside of Portugal, and also with training of our people. That's our strategy.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Federico, what's your insights and comments on this topic?
Yeah, so answering very directly to your question, I believe that this AED cluster itself, it's a crucial bridge to the Portuguese ASD ecosystems. It's one of the most-leading partners here in our agenda. Our program will allow a level of national integration of our suppliers that has never been achieved before in Portugal. This might be scary, but exciting at the same time, because this airplane, with the exception of the avionics, landing gear, and engines, because not even the largest manufacturers are able to integrate and develop an aircraft without sourcing these parts of the aircraft, the rest of the plane has an absolutely overwhelming national integration potential. For the size of our sector, despite the fact that it is growing, it still has a lot of way to go. So in terms of the other parts of the airplane, you name it. I mean, wings, electronic and hydraulic wirings, electrical systems, interiors. I could go on and on and on. But I believe that in Portugal we do not lack of companies that can supply our plane. And if it's not 100% Portuguese, it will be 90 or 95 for sure.
Great. Pedro, what do you think?
So, yeah, Antonio. So let me bring up some. Well, most of the things were said already. Francisco put it very well. We need to be care and take care about what is the lack of skills available in the market. There are new skill sets required. So I think everyone is aware, and it's not just a Portuguese issue. It's actually Western industry, especially those acting in very high technological fields, that currently we have a lack of enough mature skill set and personnel. So in our case, and that was specifically addressed on PRI project, on RX, we have just one line of development specifically to generate, to grasp, to grab, to retain, to produce, let's say, talent people. But of course, this will require in some cases upscaling, rescaling, people readdressing their knowledge and needs, and in some cases, of course, you need to work very close with some partners some cases it would make sense to have internalized all that skill set. In other cases, there won't be available skill set for everyone. So we may think about other ways of getting access to these sets, to this knowledge. So this is one of the points. And secondly, internally, we do have a program to minimize and mitigate that issue. Of course, at industry and sector level, we should take into account that Portugal is a player in not only EU level. So we should discuss this with the authorities, how we are able to get to Portugal skilled people from abroad so that we can strengthen our industry sector. So there's a lot of work to be done, Antonio, but we are here to do it.
Great, optimistic. Yes, I like that. So human resources, it's really a problem in all sectors, especially skilled resources. So another question. I don't think we have any questions from the audience or from the public. If you want, please go ahead, and we'll forward them to the speakers. Another question. So the title of this workshop is Disrupting the Portuguese Industrial Landscape. So let's get into that. Let's go into that in detail. So how disruptive are your programs? Let's say nationally, internationally, technology, and business-wise. So how disruptive are you? Francisco, tell us about it.
Thank you, Antonio. That's a great question. You're always great to answer. Disruption at two levels. First, globally, because our market is never national. One of the characteristics of the aerospace and defense is that even though we can have some pilot markets in Portugal, our target market needs to be global. Satellites are global, even UAVs or RPAS are global, airplanes are global. So we need to target global leaderships. What we see through Geosat is that, in fact, we have two huge incumbents in the market, Maxar and Airbus. They jointly have the majority of the market. What we have been seeing is that there is room for a company with satellites, and with satellites means that we are able to decide what images we take and to deliver them immediately, right after taking them, and provide tailored services. What we see is that this democratization and consumerization of the market, which is coming and we already see it, will only be possible if we are able to tailor solutions to the different customers. And the different customers and the new customers are customers that have never seen an image from a satellite. They think it's a standard picture or photography. It is not. It's something different. You cannot open it in Paint or something like that. They require a different approach. So we, as in Earth observation companies, need to bridge this gap to the user, which is not a professional user or a scientific user. So this is where we are targeting disruption, is having the satellites to provide the right image at the right time, having the team to be able to extract information that we want from that image, and having also the relations that allow us to explain to these potential customers how Earth observation is changing their lives, and then leading to a market. So we need to also foster the market itself. Afterwards, why we are disrupting the Portuguese industry is that many of us have been developing satellites for many years, and now we know what the market is asking, and we are able to provide this information back to the supply chain. Kevin can also talk about that in the drone market, but operating provides you with a huge amount of lessons learned that when they are fed back to the development chain, they can provide real benefit. For instance, right now, we receive proposals for software image processing chains for ground segment. We know shortcomings of these software tools that the provider doesn't know of, because we have been operating them 24/7 for now many years. And so this is the type of added value that we can bring to the entire supply chain. And that, to our perspective, will allow a significant acceleration in the development, leading to the disruption you were mentioning.
Okay, Ivo. So, and how disruptive is your project?
Yes, we have several disruptions. One is the VDS by itself, because it's a new system that is not yet available. There was one satellite that was launched some months ago, but the service by itself it's still new, and so for sure it will be disruptive. Some people may think Starlink will be our competition, um, much larger bandwidth. Yeah, that's true, but we are aiming really to a different kind of system, really a niche market where we have a cheap system. In principle, VDS will be mandatory, which means that if ships will be obliged to have this system, they already have almost for free the possibility to send and receive messages, and there's also new service that will be created. So this will be disruptive for sure. Then on the other hand, we will have this augmented reality tool that is going to be used. As far as we know, this will be the first time that the full satellite will be integrated using this tool, and also a constellation. And all these disruptions are really to get an advantage, a competitive advantage with respect to competition, and finally the antenna that we are developing with energy and IT is really something else that we are doing, so that we have a more competitive um, price for this subsystem. So this is what we are doing in terms of making something different from what is currently existing.
Thank you very much, Ivo. Federico, you are a new kid on the block. You must be really disruptive. So, how much are you disruptive?
Yeah, this question, it's interesting because if you took attention to my presentation, I was presenting a 19-seat aircraft, 2,000 kilos of cargo, 2,000 kilometers of range, with civilian and military versions, not pressurized, fixed landing gear, and so on. And you'll say, so these guys are not building like any special aircraft. And I think the disruption starts right there. Instead of building a costly and possibly an uncertain product in the market, we're attacking a gap. The first objective is to an estimated demand of more than 5,000 aircraft of this, the aircraft that are in the end of the useful life.
Federico,
also, our aircraft.
Federico, you are breaking up, so please go a little bit back, the last 30 seconds. Sorry, we are losing you. Federico? Federico? Okay, I think we lost him. We can hear him. Okay, we lost him. So, Pedro, go ahead. Comment, please. And there is a question from the audience afterwards. Okay, Federico, go ahead. We lost you the last minute. Yeah.
Sorry, I believe I stayed on the fact that we're particularly aimed to the markets of Africa, South America, and the archipelagos of South Asia, where the land transportation is weak. This is also a great opportunity for a simple reason. The largest aircraft manufacturers in the world have stopped producing these aircraft with this specific configuration over the last 10 years, because naturally, given their size, the investments they manage, they are considered on much more larger planes that we all know, and many of us often fly there. Plus, and to conclude, the design of the light regional aircraft, since its origin takes into consideration the most sustainable solutions, developed with line with the current best technical scientific practices, including the technical requirements, the carrying out of studies, namely in terms of circular aviation, green gas emissions, the development and implementation of an hybrid electric propulsion technologies, and the last generation of hydrogen and ammonia introduced on these aircraft will have the potentiation of the use of renewable energy, and consequently, the energy resilience aiming greenhouse gas emissions reductions, but also in the use of natural materials, new additive manufacturing technologies that allow not only to reduce the waste of raw materials, but also to optimize the component supply chains and reduce the costs of supply stocks, increasing the efficiency of the whole sector. So this will provide a supply chain development of a next generation fuel level, thus reducing the climate impact. Thank you.
Okay, Federico, thank you very much. So we have just 1 minute to go. Pedro, we have a question from the audience to Pedro.
Mhm.
So Pedro, I will ask you to not only answer the global question I asked, but also this
Sure.
one. So what could be the target regions where the ARX can make the difference related to future sales?
Okay, Antonio. So let me just very briefly complement what was said about the industry. We do include in our project the integration capability of the value chain. So this means that we need to better manage all the suppliers to make sure that we deliver on time what our goals and products. So this part of it, but we need to understand that Portugal is building up this transformation from it's not on the last year, on the last 2 years, and not just a project. So Portugal is doing a road for the last 20 years or more, and it needs to continue doing that. But what we see and we hope is to see more popping up industries, from coating materials to manufacturing to design to support. Well, you can see an ecosystem building it. That's what we're aiming at. And going directly to the second question about the potential markets for RX. Well, RX is built up on our expert experience. So there are two critical markets. One will be, of course, maritime market. That's where I think, especially for wider surveillance, monitoring, making sure the safety in the sea as by law area. So I think that will be one of the functions of the RX. Of course, you also can do in land other type of intelligence missions to gather intelligence. So I think in terms of areas, clearly maritime areas worldwide, and in land, I would expect more operations that require a continuous monitoring situation. I would say dangerous areas, critical infrastructure monitoring. It can be in Africa, it can be in Europe, it can be in Asia. It's not regional dependence in that sense.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Pedro. There are some more questions, but we don't have time for any more questions. Thank you very much for all of you. There would be probably many more questions and many more issues related to these disruptive projects. But I'm sure next year we'll be here to discuss and update the status of each of these projects. So thank you very much for your presentations, for the discussion. Thank you very much for the audience, and we'll see you probably next year with an update. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Antonio.
Thank you very much, Antonio.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you to the participants. We are jumping immediately because we are overlapping our time. We are jumping to Timóteo Menezes from Thales to speak about the accelerated operational cyber competencies and development in the fast-paced changing world. I think I have Timóteo already. We are still waiting for him. Timóteo, are you there?
Good morning.
Timóteo, the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes. Please try to keep the time.
Okay. Are you seeing my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm Timóteo Menezes. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer, Cybersecurity Authority, and CAN for Aerospace and Defense. Before anything, thank you very much to AED for the invitation, having me, and all the remote presence for watching this presentation. So I came with a different presentation. I think what is normally, it is the team accelerator operational cyber competence development in a fast-paced change world. Let me see if the, okay. So in terms of agenda, I will give a quick overview of the agenda and talk about quickly talk about Tails Group, Tails Edisoft Portugal focus areas and cybersecurity activities. Then I will address the main theme of this presentation, which is the Accelerated Operational Cyber Competence Development, or short acronym AOCCD, the need for accelerated cyber competence development and their challenge, and the key 5 elements of accelerated operational cyber competence development program. Then I will end this presentation with a summary and conclusions wrap up. It's not passing. Okay. So Tails is a global technology leader with more than 77,000 employees, with presence in 68 countries on 5 continents, and with a market capitalization of 30 billion euros. The group is continuously investing in digital and especially in deep tech innovations such as big data, artificial intelligence, connectivity, cybersecurity, and quantum technology. All the trendy technologies that we hear every day. In the markets of defense and security, aerospace and space, digital identity and security and transport, Tails provides solutions, service, and products that help its customer, which are the companies, organizations, governments, to carry out their critical mission, and therefore helping to build a future we can all trust. This is the motto. For more information about Tails Group, please access the link that is on the slide, tailsgroup.com and Global Group. And working on these markets, Tails, through the development of innovative and advanced solutions portfolio, is a worldwide leader in several market segments, domains such as the ones presented on this slide. As we have a short time to the presentation, I will not talk about each or one of them. So about Tails Edisoft Portugal. Tails Edisoft is present in Portugal for more than 35 years, currently having around 700 employees, with a 35% share of NAV, AP, Portuguese Air Navigation Service Provider, and EDD Portugal, representing the Ministry of Defense, with office headquarters in Oeiras and presence in the Açores Islands, where we run the teleport in Santa Maria. As today, we have 2 Tails Engineering Competencing Centers in Portugal. One is for Tails Navy Defense System Solutions, and the other for Tails Air Mobility Solutions, and we export these solutions to all over the world. But Tails Edisoft also works in other areas like land defense systems, aerospace, and cybersecurity and identity security, where we work with most demanding customers such as the Portuguese MOD, NSA, several critical infrastructure customers, and many others. In terms of cybersecurity, Tails Edisoft Portugal developed several activities in the different cybersecurity domains, including but not limited to infrastructure protection, system application protection, information governance, risk and compliance, with solutions on-premise, cloud, or hybrid, but also partnering with several other industry security vendors leaders. As you can quickly see in this slide, we have a complete specialized cybersecurity service catalog offered with proven field experience in complex projects and customer reference in defense, government, public, and private sector. It's not the aim of this presentation to talk about all of this service, but we remain available throughout normal contacts if you want, any one of the present wants to know more details about our service catalogs. So after this introductory quick overview about Tails Group and Tails Edisoft Portugal, I would like to get back track and to the theme of this presentation. And if you already forgot, it's about accelerated operational cyber competence development in the fast-paced changing world. So why this theme and why the need for accelerated operational cyber competence development? You may ask yourselves. because the digital world we live in is changing at unprecedented pace as digitalization has entered almost every aspect of our life. And there is on the daily basis an increasing dependence on communications and the digital to carry out our professional, our leisure, and any other type of activities. It depend more and more of this. And in the face of this fast-paced changing world we live in, the need for accelerated development of cyber operational competence is evident because cyber threats continue to evolve. It's not just a technology, and evolving at an alarming rate, with attackers employing advanced techniques and tactics to explore the digital weakness of individuals and organizations. And the emergence of new technologies, such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and cloud computing is also revolutionizing even more the way we live and work, introducing even more new threats and vulnerabilities that are, unfortunately, being actively exploited by different types of threat actors. And the fact that our societies and economies nowadays rely heavily on this interconnected digital infrastructure and data amplifies the potential impact of cyber incidents. These factors demand a response for our organizations to develop their own operational cyber competences at an accelerated pace in order to properly protect their digital business assets and people. And what happens is that failing to keep up with this rapid change and needs may leave organizations vulnerable, compromising their security posture and resilience. But I would like to give a step back and try to understand for you all, see if we are on the same page, what are operational cyber competencies. In the fast-paced changing world we're living in, to navigate in the ever-changing cyber landscape effectively, organizations must possess the necessary human resources with operational cyber competencies in order to adequately address the protection of their digital assets and business. These competencies are a mix of a wide range of skills, knowledge, and abilities required to effectively manage and respond to cyber threats in a proactive or reactive manner. It will depend a little bit on the organization. These competencies are multifaceted, spanning various domains, such as, for example, understanding the different technologies, not just about security, that are implemented in the organization, understand, for example, the normative and regulatory context applied to the organization and business sector, and other areas like security monitoring or vulnerability management or incident detection response, and so on. So in this slide, I have a non-exhaustive list of these competence areas. And why? Because these are the competencies that empower individuals and organizations to proactively identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover from attacks, and help organizations become, in this case, more cyber resilient, ensuring their business continuity and competitivity. And many organizations that fail to have a structured and consistent approach strategy for fostering the development of this competence, I believe they have a higher degree of probability of being more vulnerable, being compromised, and appear on the news, unfortunately, for the bad reasons. Threat actors will continue to attack individuals and organizations on all sizes and sectors, and we'll see these threat actors' success stories results daily on the news. I just put here some public examples of these organizations, Portuguese ones and the international organization that unfortunately have been successfully attacked and exposed on the media news, just as an example. So we have challenge, especially for developing these operational cyber competencies. I just list here some of the challenges. There are a lot of them. I will not, unfortunately, be able to speak in detail for each one of them, but just reviewing quickly, the challenges are the rapidly evolving of the threat landscape. This is one of the biggest challenge. Technical complexity of the world that we're living, shortage of skilled cybersecurity professionals. That's why we have to develop more competence on new people, new resources. The need for continuous learning, interdisciplinary knowledge, realistic training environments, not just attending trainings, real-world hands-on experience to be able to effectively deal with these threats, these attacks, and so on, so on. So now that I hope that I may transmit you the urgency of and importance of this the competence development, let us explore the 5 key elements that facilitate the accelerated development of operational cyber competencies program. These elements encompass comprehensive training programs, 1, hands-on exercise and simulations, continuous learning and upskilling, as well as collaboration and information sharing. By focusing on these elements, organizations can effectively equip their workforce to face the challenge of the digital landscape threats. So I will now talk a little bit about what are the elements of this program. You have 5, like you have seen. So the first main element is the comprehensive training programs, which are instrumental in accelerating the development of operational cyber competencies. These programs should provide adequate curriculums covering a diverse range of skills required in the field. They should integrate technical and non-technical aspects such as incident response, threat hunting, security coding, risk management, and compliance, just to name a few. Furthermore, this program should adopt a blended learning approach, combining online courses, workshops, and industry-recognized certifications. By tailoring the training to the specific needs of individuals and organizations, it's possible to develop a skilled workforce capable of adapting to the ever-changing cyber threat landscape. And this is the first main element. The second main element is operational hands-on exercise and simulation. I think this is the most important, in my opinion, and taking into account the experience of 25 years working on this area. Because while theoretical knowledge is crucial, practical experience plays a vital importance in operational cyber competence development. Hands-on exercise and simulations provide available opportunities for individuals to learn and apply their knowledge in realistic scenarios, and this makes all the difference. Virtual environments and cyber range allow trainees to simulate cyber attack scenarios, helping develop their skills in a controlled and safe way. By using this simulated challenge, individuals can refine their incident response, enhance their decision-making skills, and gain confidence in their ability to mitigate threats. And cyber range, for example, this is one of the solutions by excellence that defense is using, now governments are using to train it, have offered several advantages in accelerated development of operational cyber competence. They can simulate complex scenarios that reflect the evolving threat landscape, ensuring trainees are exposed to the latest attack and techniques. This dynamic nature of cyber range helps individuals develop adaptive and agile response strategies, preparing them to address emerging cyber threats. And they also contribute to other things, like, for example, in addition to individual training, cyber range also facilitate the collaborative learning experience. Teams can work together using the cyber range environment, fostering collaborate and strengthening communication skills. By simulating realistic cyber incidents, teams can practice incident response coordination, information sharing, and decision-making under pressure, just like in the real world. And we have several examples. I myself have participated in some of them, like the NATO exercise, where they are using cyber ranges or in virtual environments and simulate this in a federated way.
Timothy, we have overpassed the time and you are not changing your slides. Please conclude as soon as possible.
Okay, okay. So I would like just to talk about, to say one thing that General Patton once said, you fight like you train. So this is the motto of the Portuguese Armed Forces that say that whenever possible to train under the condition of expert environments. So we have 3 more main elements, the continuous learning upskilling, because the rapidly evolving nature of cyber threats demands a culture of continuous learning and upskilling, and cybersecurity professionals must stay updated with the latest trend techniques. We have the 4th main element with collaboration and information sharing. Very, very important on this fight against cyber threats, because cyber competence development is not an isolated endeavor. It's in collaboration and information sharing play pivotal roles in strengthening the capabilities of cyber security professionals. And finally, the fifth element, which is investing in technology infrastructure. To accelerate this kind of development competencies, organization must invest in cutting-edge technology and robust cybersecurity infrastructure, providing cybersecurity the professional tools and resources to enhance their effectiveness in combating cyber threats. So in terms of conclusion, the accelerated development of operational cyber competences, including the use of cyber or other simulation environment, is imperative in our fast-paced changing world to safeguard the digital assets and ensure resilience of our organization in the face of evolving cyber risks. By prioritizing comprehensive training programs, hands-on exercise and simulations, continuous learning, upskilling, collaboration and information sharing, and investments in technology and infrastructure, organizations can empower their workforce to effectively combat cyber threats in an efficient way. To end, I just would like to say a quote, nail Europe. True cybersecurity is preparing for what's next, not what was last. And this is what happened today. We have the companies that have been attacked and the others that don't know that already been. Thank you very much. And these are my contacts. And if you need anything or any doubt or talk a little bit about these or other teams, please be free. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Timoteo. I will pass immediately for Professor Afzal, researcher and professor at Canada and Portuguese University, IST, that will speak about forecast low-cost CubeSat science mission. Professor, I draw your attention, please, for the counter on the timer to not spend much than we have. The screen is yours, please go ahead.
Everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll try to finish it. It's 10:53, so I'll try to finish as soon as I can. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is about a project called OrcaSat, which is an optical radio and radio calibration and of atmospheric attenuation satellite. So this was like a program that was initiated by the Canadian Space Agency, where they gave funding to 15 universities across Canada. And the University of Victoria was essentially responsible for this CubeSat for a science mission. So just to give a bit of background on the Center for Aerospace Research at the University of Victoria, we work on aeronautics, space, and defense. On the left-hand side, you'll see a current program. We are involved with Bombardier on developing on next-generation business jets. In the middle, you'll see the space on the OrcaSat project. I'll talk a little bit more about it in this presentation. On the defense side, we work with the Department of National Defense in Canada on the development of airborne sensors for monitoring the Arctic and monitoring, basically trying to identify submarines in the Arctic in Canadian waters. So what is OrcaSat? OrcaSat is essentially what I would call an artificial star. It is a reference calibration satellite. It's a 2U. And the goal was to basically to be built by faculty and students at the University of Victoria, as I mentioned about as part of the Canadian Canadian CubeSat project. It has been in the low Earth orbit since December 29th, 2022, and was deployed from the space station. Also, so you can see here just a schematic where you can see the typical star. The OrcaSat will act as an artificial star. So we know essentially what is the wavelength of the light that it is emitted from the OrcaSat. We measured it by the ground-based telescopes, and then with the difference in the wavelengths, we can calibrate the data and the images. So it is essentially a technology demonstrator. It is a reference light source in a LEO orbit. Also, it has got a photometric calibration of ground-based optical telescopes for astronomy, and that's what we are going to use. So you can see a view of our satellite laboratory development. This is the payload that was developed, is an integrating sphere here that was developed during this time. So just to basically, the best thing is just to show a video. So this video summarizes the whole project.
Three, two, one.
Everything continuing to look good this morning. All right, and I can report target capture is complete.
Wonderful, thanks a lot, and great work out there today. We're excited to get to work.
T-minus 10 minutes until we point out Boris and Borgasek and International Space Station. 3, 2, 1, mark. Visually confirmed deployment. Official timestamp is 13:45:00 GMT. Congratulations, Boris and Borgasek team. Please stay in touch and best of luck with operations.
Okay, so just to summarize, so what happened was that once we deployed once the satellite was deployed on the December 29th, we started operations and the commissioning of the satellite. So for that we have a basic satellite operations capability at the University of Victoria, and again this was specifically built during this process of the OrcaSat mission, and so we have basically an operations center. And then also we have a radio room with antenna and RF equipment, which is our propagation laboratory. So the satellite passes occur essentially at any time on all times of the day because of its orbit. So we have an operation, and basically it's remotely operated by licensed operator radio operators who are students associated with the Center of Aerospace Research and trained in-house. The ground station is very diverse and capable, and essentially it's got a range of capabilities for use not only for the OrcaSat but future missions as well. So this is the radio room. As you see, that this is the antenna on the roof of our building at the University of Victoria, and this is essentially the hardware that it is in the radio room, and this is our operations center, which is essentially in another building. So on the science observations, we started that basically once the launch was once the deployment was done. So the expected burnout of the satellite is in mid-June sometime, June 2023, which is in about a couple of weeks. So you can see some of the details of the different components of the satellite. And on the observation side, we have been working with Blanco in Chile. This is the ground-based telescopes basically available in Chile. We are working with them, to basically try to get these measurements and get some data on this artificial star. Due to its basically nature that it is in low Earth orbit, the most we can do is to track the orbit of the satellite. So you can see the sort of first image of the OrcaSat 616 nanometer light source streak, which was image taken by an on blanco 4-meter telescope in Chile. As I mentioned, the orbit will decay around the middle of June, and OrcaSat will burn up in the atmosphere at that time. So what is the next step? So the next step is essentially that the Canadian Space Agency has started another program called CUBICS, and this is just started this project. What we are doing is that developing a new CubeSat, which is going to be a 3U CubeSat. It's called SkyanaSat. Skyana is a Haida Gwaii basically word. Since we are in British Columbia, it is quite appropriate, which is a space-based Earth, oceans, and atmosphere imaging CubeSat. The payload is essentially a combination of active microwave and high-frequency radio sensing from orbit via software-defined radio. So basically, this gives us a very powerful and novel climate and Earth monitoring satellite in a highly compact form. So the primary science goal will be to utilize this high-frequency radio and microwave SDR to provide novel, nearly real-time information on the particulate loading of the Earth's atmosphere. As you know, that the forest fires affect, to great extent, the composition of the atmosphere, and by monitoring the particulate loading, we are able to basically sort of determine the level of sort of risk to the populations based in cities, and as you know, in Canada, currently in British Columbia, Alberta, and in Nova Scotia, we've been having major forest fires. The other part of the good thing about the software-defined radio is that it allows us to have this basically radio waves in the megahertz and the gigahertz range. So on the gigahertz range, we are going to measure the salinity of the oceans. And as we know that from the science has been developed, that the ocean salinity is defined as an essential climate variable as part of the global climate observation system. So that's basically my presentation. If you have any questions, we got still 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. I don't see any questions for the moment. We can take advantage of having you done a very quick presentation. And if no other questions, I will jump to the follow-on session. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, thank you.
We will follow on with a perspective of the space and defense sector, what we are doing in Portugal. And I call to the screen Teresa Ferreira, Space Director of GMV Portugal. Teresa, are you there? Yeah, you have to unmute. Okay,
Indeed.
Teresa, the screen is yours. You have your participants. Thank you for your participation. Please take the lead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the session about space and defense protecting Portugal. This session will be conducted in Portuguese language. So if you don't speak Portuguese, I kindly ask you to be patient and to check out during next week. The organization will upload the session with subtitles, so you'll be able to review it. Passo então para português. Bom dia a todos e bem-vindos à sessão sobre espaço e defesa protegendo Portugal. O meu nome é Teresa Ferreira, sou diretora de SAT-NAV na GMV Portugal e tenho todo o prazer em moderar esta sessão em nome da AED. Começaria então por dar as boas-vindas aos distintos convidados que tão simpaticamente aceitaram este convite. O Comandante Matias Freitas, do Estado-Maior-General das Forças Armadas, Comandante Paulo Simões, do Estado-Maior da Armada, Coronel João Rosa, do Estado-Maior da Força Aérea e o Tenente-Coronel Nuno Mira, do Estado-Maior do Exército. Este tema e a interseção espaço e defesa nunca foram tão relevantes para Portugal como agora. A guerra na Ucrânia acelerou os investimentos nacionais da defesa por toda a Europa e Portugal parece não ser exceção, com a aprovação de uma LPM que viu um aumento do orçamento de cerca de 17%. mas pela primeira vez a LPM faz referência ao setor de espaço, em linha também com a Estratégia da Defesa Nacional para o Espaço, publicada em 2021. Neste contexto, a AED desenhou esta sessão, no qual pedimos ao comandante Matias de Freitas para apresentar a Estratégia da Defesa Nacional para o Espaço e LPM, e depois iremos ouvir cada um dos ramos falar-nos sobre como esta estratégia LPM será refletida em cada um dos ramos e também mencionando qual a importância do espaço nas suas operações. Durante a sessão, peço que se tiverem perguntas, por favor, escrevam no chat, eu vou recolhendo e no final, se tivermos tempo, faremos as perguntas. Indiquem-me também, por favor, no chat se uma pergunta for genérica ou se querem vê-la dirigida a alguém em particular. Portanto, com isto, então, daria de início à sessão. Passo então o ecrã para o comandante Matias de Freitas, do EMFA. Por favor.
Ora, muito bom dia. Já estão a ouvir a minha apresentação. Eu gostaria de... Portanto, sou o comandante Matias de Freitas. Estou a prestar serviço no Estado-Maior-General das Forças Armadas como chefe do Departamento do Espaço, também recentemente criado. Em primeiro lugar, gostaria, obviamente, de agradecer o convite efetuado pela AED. É com todo o prazer que estou aqui neste evento e nesta sessão para partilhar convosco aquilo que é a Estratégia da Defesa Nacional para o Espaço e a Diretiva Estratégica Setorial também do Estado-Maior-General das Forças Armadas para o Espaço, apontando para aquilo que será os investimentos nos próximos anos relativamente ao setor do espaço. Efetivamente, este tema não podia ser muito mais atual. Todos nós sabemos que as sociedades modernas estão cada vez mais dependentes da tecnologia espacial e das suas aplicações, transformando o domínio do espaço num desígnio nacional, quer para a sustentabilidade económica, social e ambiental, quer para garantir de forma eficaz, abrangente e sistematizada a prossecução das atividades de defesa e segurança nacionais e ao nível também europeu, com a aprovação da Estratégia Europeia para o Espaço. Em jeito de enquadramento, para começar a minha apresentação, vou abordar-se aqui apenas alguns marcos relevantes nos últimos anos, portanto, convém, já foi abordado pela Teresa, também em 2018, 2019, vimos o nascimento de uma Estratégia Nacional para o Espaço e a criação da Agência Portuguesa para o Espaço, sendo realçar aqui que a defesa, desde o início, é sócio fundador da Agência Portuguesa para o Espaço. Portanto, a defesa está sempre, desde o início, presente naquilo que é a Estratégia Nacional para o Espaço. Em 2019, ao nível da NATO, foi declarado o espaço como um novo domínio operacional, a par dos restantes domínios ar, terra, mar e ciberespaço. Em 2021, temos a aprovação da Estratégia da Defesa Nacional para o Espaço e consequente programa espacial faz parte desta estratégia. Em 2022, com a reorganização com a reorganização da estrutura superior das Forças Armadas, o SEMPA passa a assegurar os aspectos militares do Programa Espacial da Defesa Nacional, em articulação com o chefe de Estado-Maior dos ramos, e aqui é criada a Diretiva Estratégica Setorial para o Espaço nas Forças Armadas. Ainda em 2022, assistimos ao nascimento do Programa Espacial Europeu e também a criação da Agência Europeia para a implementação do Programa Espacial Europeu, a EUSPA, que neste momento já está em plenas funções e a dirigir alguns aspectos da implementação da Estratégia Europeia para o Espaço. Relativamente à Estratégia da Defesa Nacional para o Espaço, deixo aqui apenas um slide, será mais ou menos conhecido de todos, mas com a visão daquilo que é a Estratégia da Defesa Nacional para o Espaço, que trata-se de recorrer ao espaço e tecnologias associadas para reforçar a autonomia das Forças Armadas, de forma a alargar a liberdade de ação de Portugal na defesa da soberania e dos interesses nacionais. De forma a garantir a ação de defesa nacional que possa beneficiar da tecnologia espacial, e possa ao mesmo tempo impulsionar o desenvolvimento do setor tecnológico que a nível europeu se assume como prioritário para o futuro da sociedade de informação e comunicação. A Estratégia de Defesa Nacional para o Espaço articula o desenvolvimento de capacidades, as prioridades de investimento e a preparação dos recursos humanos e técnicos necessários para tirar partido de toda a dimensão espacial. A Diretiva Estratégica Setorial para o Espaço nas Forças Armadas está alinhada com a Estratégia Nacional para o Espaço, a Estratégia Europeia e também com os trabalhos que estão a ser realizados ao nível da própria NATO. E visa o desenvolvimento de todos os aspectos militares do Programa Espacial da Defesa Nacional, decorrente da Estratégia da Defesa Nacional para o Espaço, procura ainda incrementar as capacidades militares, promovendo o desenvolvimento da base tecnológica industrial de defesa e de sistema científico e tecnológico nacional. Visa a edificação de uma nova capacidade militar conjunta das Forças Armadas, em proveito das diversas missões das Forças Armadas. Em termos de orientações estratégicas, foram definidas 3 orientações fundamentais. Assegurar a vantagem militar através da utilização da capacidade espacial, edificar a própria capacidade espacial e estimular a cooperação com entidades nacionais e internacionais, porque no espaço não estamos certamente sozinhos e necessitamos de toda a cooperação. Em termos de objetivos de curto prazo e aquilo que será a intenção ao nível das Forças Armadas. Portanto, pretende-se garantir a maior cooperação com entidades nacionais e internacionais, nomeadamente com a Agência Espacial Portuguesa, a AED, Portugal Defense, todo o tecido industrial e a academia ao nível nacional, assegurando o desenvolvimento das capacidades, muitas delas baseadas no duplo uso, nestas sinergias militar-civil, promovendo naturalmente a formação e a educação. Em termos de implementação, pretende-se desenvolver o acesso e processamento de imagens por satélite, ISR, a vigilância e monitorização do espaço e, naturalmente, garantir as comunicações por satélite. Todas estas componentes integradas num centro de operações espaciais conjunto. Há aqui ainda a realçar também a inclusão do posicionamento de navegação em tempo, que não está naturalmente esquecido. Estes são aqui os principais, mas também há parte dos objetivos também a curto prazo. Um pouco mais em detalhe. Ao nível do processamento de imagens satélite, pretende-se trabalhar com a comunidade Intel dentro das Forças Armadas para promover e facilitar o uso a imagens de satélite na produção de informação para apoiar a tomada de decisão ao nível militar e ao nível também governamental. Em termos de Space Surveillance Awareness, trata-se de construir e sustentar toda a capacidade de monitorização do espaço, contribuindo para uma imagem situacional do espaço, incluindo Space Weather. De realçar aqui, algum trabalho já está feito, será naturalmente aproveitar todo o trabalho realizado ao nível do projeto Space Surveillance and Tracking, dando agora uma dimensão militar, um uso militar, ao que já está implementado e promovendo o desenvolvimento de novos sensores e novas aplicações de uso militar. Assegurar as comunicações por satélite. Cada vez mais as Forças Armadas estão dependentes das comunicações por satélite, nomeadamente as nossas forças navais destacadas. Trata-se de garantir que as nossas forças têm acesso às comunicações por satélite, seja elas em que banda for, promovendo o desenvolvimento, aquisição, desenvolvimento, nomeadamente alguns receptores e terminais por satélite, e incluindo igualmente toda a capacidade de antenas. E como é que vamos fazer isto? A intenção claramente é temos que promover a integração e, para isso, a criação de um centro conjunto de operações espaciais é essencial para concentrar aquilo que são os esforços do ENF, das Forças Armadas, em prol das nossas forças destacadas, aquelas que precisam efetivamente de todas as componentes por satélite. Por outro lado, para que isto aconteça, há um objetivo claro de apostar cada vez mais no treino operacional, fazendo parte de outros centros, nomeadamente em voos aliados, como seja o Centro de Operações Espaciais da NATO em Ramstein e o Centro de Excelência da NATO, do qual Portugal já faz parte e que se pretende, no futuro próximo, colocar lá pelo menos um militar ao nível nacional para retirar daqui todos os ensinamentos e ajudar a construir a capacidade espacial a nível nacional. Isto tudo isto vai nos permitir criar, que é também essencial, uma cultura do uso da capacidade espacial dentro das próprias Forças Armadas. Um pouco mais de médio e longo prazo, assim dizer, pretende-se claramente fazer uma integração efetiva de tudo quanto são em tecnologia espacial, em suporte das operações militares. Integrar e participar em exercícios internacionais, nomeadamente nos comandos de aliados, desenvolver toda uma componente de downstreaming que será essencial para o garante alguma autonomia ao nível das Forças Armadas Nacionais e, prosseguindo este objetivo em autonomia, procurar o desenvolvimento pelos proprietários para serviços autónomos ao nível das Forças Armadas. Este é um objetivo mais ambicioso, mas julgo que estamos no bom caminho. Existem alguns projetos neste momento já em desenvolvimento que nos permitirão alcançar este nível de ambição. Em termos de investimento, bom, neste momento naquilo que são os trabalhos da Lei de Programação Militar, como já referido pela 13, pela primeira vez vamos ter investimento ao nível da Lei de Programação Militar dedicado ao espaço. Anteriormente estaria sempre ligado à capacidade de mando e controle. Vamos ter, claramente, linhas de financiamento na Lei de Programação Militar exclusivamente dedicados ao espaço. Aquilo que é a proposta ao nível dos Estado-Maiores das nossas Forças Armadas, portanto, são os montantes que aqui são indicados. Para os próximos 12 anos, termos cerca de 45 milhões de euros. Aqui não está incluído o financiamento também previsto na Direção-Geral de Recursos, nem nos próprios ramos, que terão também algum financiamento dedicado a toda esta área. A estimativa é que nós conseguimos para os próximos anos pelo menos 60 milhões de euros para investir no setor do espaço ao nível da defesa. Este investimento será também, ele próprio, não só dedicado a aquisições, mas também ao desenvolvimento e ao apoio a toda a componente de investigação, desenvolvimento e inovação. E aqui entra um pouco também aquilo que está aqui a referir um pouco mais abaixo no slide, que é fundos europeus. Nós, neste momento, podemos fazer uso do Fundo Europeu de Defesa e, igualmente, numa questão mais de dual use, ao nível de algum financiamento do Horizonte Europa vindo da União Europeia. Aqui é fundamental o trabalho conjunto em Forças Armadas, com a indústria e o Sistema Científico e Tecnológico Nacional, por forma a que a defesa também, as Forças Armadas, possam apoiar o tecido industrial e científico nacional na candidatura a alguns fundos, dos quais as Forças Armadas podem naturalmente vir a beneficiar. Para terminar a minha apresentação, teria que o end state, aquilo que é o desígnio das Forças Armadas, é termos efetivamente um novo espaço como um novo domínio operacional, integrando as tecnologias espaciais, as missões e as operações das Forças Armadas. Era um pouco isto que eu tinha para apresentar. Estamos aqui como enquadramento e agora deixo também depois aqui aos restantes camaradas que farão aqui a favor aqui de identificar as necessidades, preocupações ao número dos ramos, porque em conjunto poderemos encontrar as melhores formas de as mitigar e desenvolver a capacidade espacial ao nível das Forças Armadas. Obrigado pela vossa atenção.
Muito obrigada, comandante, excelente apresentação e muito entusiasmante, de facto, ver tudo o que se está a fazer neste sentido. Portanto, anotei as três, resumindo muito sumariamente, as três orientações de assegurar a vantagem militar, cooperação nacional e internacional, a construção de capacidades espaciais e depois, claro, isto tudo dentro do Centro Conjunto de Operações Espaciais. Também é impressionante o volume de investimento dedicado ao espaço. Eu acho que também é um marco único e espero de facto que consigamos trabalhar na boa execução de todo esse orçamento, que é uma oportunidade única para para avançarmos de facto nesses objetivos. Portanto, muito obrigada. Eu passaria agora a cada um dos ramos e perguntaria também, pronto, lançaria aqui o desafio que o comandante Matias de Freitas também lançou, que é como é que vem a aplicação e as necessidades operacionais de cada um dos ramos. Começaria então com o comandante Paulo Simões, da Marinha.
Muito bom dia a todos, eu julgo que me estão a ouvir. Bom dia, Teresa. Muito obrigado por esta oportunidade. Gostaria de começar por cumprimentar o Sr. Coronel Mira, o Sr. Tenente-Coronel, perdão, o Sr. Coronel Rosa, o Sr. Tenente-Coronel Mira, o Comandante Matias de Freitas e naturalmente a nossa moderadora. Também a quem nos está a ouvir e mostrou interesse nesta sessão e, por fim, a própria organização deste evento que tem sido bastante interessante e bastante enriquecedor. Eu sou o comandante Paulo Simões, sou chefe de divisão de redes e sistemas de informação do Estado-Maior da Armada, divisão que dentro da Marinha tem a responsabilidade não só para a parte do espectro, mas também para a parte do espaço. Daí estar a fazer aqui uma pequena intervenção. Pensei inicialmente em fazer um conjunto de slides, em apresentar um conjunto de slides, contudo, e esses slides seriam em torno de uma palavra. E, portanto, normalmente nós costumamos dizer que uma imagem vale 1000 palavras, mas em torno de uma palavra não consegui encontrar 1000 imagens. Ou, quer dizer, encontrei 1000 imagens e acho que seria bastante maçador. Daí, fazer uma pequena intervenção que está muito alinhada com aquilo que o comandante Matias de Freitas acabou de referir, como sendo a posição que, neste caso, a defesa tem através do Estado-Maior-General das Forças Armadas. Nesse sentido, e referindo um pouco aquilo que a Marinha tem e utiliza da componente do domínio do espaço, a monitorização do espaço marítimo sob jurisdição nacional, o conhecimento situacional, o apoio às operações militares, nomeadamente ao nível das comunicações, observação, navegação e posicionamento, a robotização das nossas operações, a monitorização de infraestruturas críticas, o incremento do conhecimento científico e a resposta integrada a emergências complexas, são algumas das preocupações e desafios inerentes à utilização da tecnologia espacial com que a Marinha se depara atualmente. As vertentes da tecnologia espacial mais utilizadas nas nossas operações cotidianas são o uso de sensores espaciais para a obtenção de imagem, posição, navegação e tempo e comunicações satélite, nomeadamente SATCOM. De referir ainda que no caso da obtenção de imagem, esta apresenta-se normalmente de uma forma multifuncional, isto é, servindo para recolha de informações, vigilância e monitorização ambiental. Nós temos, por exemplo, o Instituto Hidrográfico que utiliza muito aquilo que é a monitorização da nossa orla costeira, é um bom exemplo daquilo que acabei de referir. No que respeita a operações combinadas e a questões de interoperabilidade, é sempre importante referir, a nível de tecnologia espacial não existem de momento desafios associados para a Marinha, uma vez que a rede de satélites é toda semelhante e a tecnologia utilizada entre os diferentes países aliados é idêntica. Naturalmente sabemos que existem sempre, para além de riscos de dependência, questões de segurança e confidencialidade da informação, sendo que certos tipos de serviços não deveriam ser fornecidos por empresas civis. É uma realidade que temos que saber gerir e a União Europeia, só a título de exemplo, e está aqui o Sr. Coronel Rosa, que está bem dentro desse processo, através da implementação do Iris Square, já é algo que já está a fazer. A nível nacional, não existindo ainda suficiente autonomia em meios espaciais, continuaremos a ter que apostar em parcerias, quer na União Europeia e com acordos bilaterais, à semelhança daquilo que outros países fazem e o bem fazem, como por exemplo a Bélgica. Para nós também é uma referência. Para a utilização de dados de observação de terra, obtidos pelos seus meios espaciais, para efeitos de previsão meteorológica e apoio a planeamento de missões de forças nacionais destacadas. Costumamos ouvir, até através do meio político, que Portugal é mar, com imenso território para explorar e proteger, onde o recurso a tecnologias assentes no espaço será naturalmente determinante. Para a robotização das nossas operações, nomeadamente aquelas que se situam além da linha de vista e comunicações, ao nível da vigilância, o apoio ao desenvolvimento científico e atuação na segurança marítima, através da utilização de unmanned systems nos ambientes subsuperfície, superfície e aéreo, a utilização de SATCOM fiável, estável e capaz é atualmente a vertente com maior projeção a par das comunicações. Por outro lado, a necessidade de transmissão em tempo real de elevada quantidade de dados é cada vez mais um desafio associado às nossas tarefas. Perante tudo isto, e atento a este domínio específico do espaço, Entendemos que necessitamos de recursos, os quais se podem enquadrar em cinco tipos diferentes para criarmos a identidade em torno do espaço. Pessoas, em quantidade e com formação específica, meios materiais que permitam o acesso a tecnologias do espaço onde a nossa indústria pode ter um papel relevante, se questionar a defesa sobre as suas reais necessidades, e isto é um desafio que lance para a indústria, a capacidade de investimento e existência de programas de financiamento, alguns deles já foram falados pelo comandante Matias de Freitas, explorar o tempo, que é um recurso sempre escasso, e nomeadamente na implementação de novas tecnologias, a utilização das novas tecnologias da indústria 4.0, que possam acelerar, e, naturalmente, por fim, conhecimento com a agregação em território nacional de centros internacionais e representação nacional em centros de excelência. Alguns deles o comandante Matias de Freitas já falou. Por isso, e atento à apresentação anterior, a criação de uma estrutura centralizada para a gestão, comando e controle e operação de capacidades militares espaciais no ENCFA, que aglutina as necessidades dos ramos e trabalha juntamente com o Ministério da Defesa Nacional, com a PT Space, a indústria e a academia, será algo que se afigura como economizador dos parques de recursos existentes e potenciador do desenvolvimento de uma capacidade nacional em torno do espaço. Repare-se que o conjunto não é sinónimo de, em razão da matéria, que a coordenação não seja atribuída a determinado ramo com a participação dos restantes. Gostaria de relevar isto. Como também acabámos de ver pela apresentação anterior, a estratégia de defesa para o espaço pressupõe a implementação gradual de capacidades, tendencionalmente que venham a promover a autonomia. Para tal, teremos de estar na primeira fila, juntamente com a nossa indústria, academia e instituições nacionais com responsabilidades neste domínio, para observar e aprender o que os outros melhor fazem e importar o melhor conhecimento perante os recursos nacionais existentes. Ao nível da formação, e retornando à Marinha, ao nível da formação dos militares da Marinha, não existe ainda uma linha de ação que se preveja concretizável a curto prazo. O estabelecimento de parcerias com os outros ramos, numa perspectiva sinergética de economia de esforço, e sinalizar, acompanhar e participar em centros internacionais, quer da NATO, quer da União Europeia, poderá ser benéfico para a defesa e, neste sentido, concordo plenamente com aquilo que o comandante Matias de Freitas apresentou. Acresce ainda que a colocação em território nacional de importantes infraestruturas internacionais ligadas ao domínio do espaço serão oportunidades que a Marinha desenvolverá, promoverá e apoiará incondicionalmente, como aquele que neste momento está em curso e está a ser liderado pela nossa Força Aérea para o Geosat Hub e para o Iris Square. Portugal começa a dispor de alguns meios espaciais, no caso dos 2 satélites de observação terrestre do consórcio Geosat. A Marinha acompanha e promoverá sempre com interesse que este tipo de desenvolvimentos ocorra, pois entendemos que existe nacionalmente capacidade de inovação e empreendedorismo para que tal aconteça, e que será também através desta que o domínio do espaço se vai desenvolver. Dou como exemplo a excelência das condições existentes na estação da Eutelsat, na Ilha da Madeira, a qual foi totalmente desenhada por 2 engenheiros portugueses, suplantando os mais exigentes requisitos operacionais e técnicos definidos pela União Europeia para a edificação da estação EGNOS. Num outro campo, entendemos também que a participação nacional nos projetos PESCO representará não só um alinhamento com as estratégias espaciais dos países europeus, e existem algumas oportunidades para isso, como também será uma oportunidade para um articulado envolvimento nacional entre a defesa, a indústria e a academia. Será realmente pertinente alargar o espectro de participação e dar sempre a conhecer ao tecido empresarial português, procurando formas de cooperação e criação de sinergias com empresas civis e universidades para projetos de investigação e obtenção de conhecimento, com evidências no envolvimento nos programas espaciais europeus. Na Marinha, essa vertente é canalizada através da Divisão de Inovação do Estado-Maior da Armada e do Instituto Hidrográfico. Para concluir, vivemos ainda uma percepção do tempo de paz e utilizamos o espaço em torno das nossas necessidades cotidianas. Imaginemos que esse figurino se altera e que somos confrontados com situações como a que ocorre atualmente a menos de 4.000 km de Portugal, do Portugal continental, a poucas horas de distância, utilizando determinados meios. Estaremos nós, os portugueses, suficientemente resilientes para efetuar as nossas tarefas cotidianas e missões sem depender de terceiros? E agora uma pergunta alinhada possivelmente com aquilo que é a função da Teresa, e se o sinal GPS ficar indisponível em Portugal? Para reduzirmos o tempo de desenvolvimento deste tipo de capacidades a nível nacional, poderá fazer sentido a existência física de um polo tecnológico nacional onde se agreguem as empresas que desenvolvam produtos para este domínio. Do nosso levantamento, são cerca de 50 a nível nacional. Se agreguem e implantem infraestruturas que tragam conhecimento, onde se respire espaço para aumentar a nossa sensibilidade e identidade para este domínio. A introdução de tecnologias associadas à indústria 4.0, e estamos a falar destas novas que surgem constantemente na comunicação social, poderá ser diferenciador para esse polo, criando assim valor nacional num mercado competitivo, mas que ainda é um oceano azul. Não tenhamos dúvidas de que o controle do espaço fornece uma vantagem e, portanto, já é um domínio disputado. Caso Portugal disponha de meios espaciais próprios, outros desafios existirão, como assegurar a defesa espacial desses meios, face a ameaças cinéticas, para diminuir, degradar e os prejudicar, e naturalmente também as ameaças ciber. É por isso que, estando numa fase inicial, promover a economia de esforço da defesa, o alinhamento de ações entre os ramos em torno de um objetivo comum, aproveitando o conhecimento interno e de networking, e as competências institucionais de cada um, será eventualmente um desafio aliciante para os próximos tempos no que concerne ao espaço na defesa. Obrigado.
Muito obrigado, Comandante Paulo Simões. Palavras inspiradoras, de facto, estamos aqui um desafio aceito, desafio pela frente, muito em sinergia, em coordenação, e aqui umas ideias muito interessantes lançadas aqui à AED. Vamos continuar, isto é sem dúvida o início de uma conversa, portanto vamos prosseguir a ideia dos polos tecnológicos e todos os outros pontos que foram abordados. Portanto, muito obrigada. Passaria agora para o Coronel João Rosa, da Força Aérea, e dava-lhe o palco.
Muito obrigado, bom dia Teresa, bom dia aos camaradas e saúde as duas apresentações anteriores, que como sempre estiveram ao nível desejado, agradeço. A razão pela qual eu também não trago um PowerPoint, porque vou tentar ser complementar àquilo que os meus camaradas da Marinha já disseram, e seria mais difícil uma apresentação já preparada. Eu estive a tirar notas e espero não ser maçador e ser complementar então. Eu sou o Coronel João Rosa, sou o chefe de Estado-Maior do Procomandério na Força Aérea. Por inerência das minhas funções, sou a pessoa que faz agora a ligação ao espaço, com o ENFA, naturalmente, que é o nosso polo centralizador deste tema. O meu background sou piloto F-16, tenho cerca de 4.000 horas de voo em F-16 e lidei com o espaço a minha vida toda, não só através do ar, porque não há propriamente uma barreira física. Nunca estive no espaço, infelizmente, não é que não gostasse, mas não há essa barreira física, mas sempre usei, sempre fez parte das minhas funções, quer para navegação, para a precisão do nosso armamento, etc. Portanto, o espaço sempre foi uma extensão natural do meu trabalho. Quero também não deixar de agradecer o amável convite que a AED fez e a oportunidade que deu às Forças Armadas e, neste meu caso, a permitir que eu partilhe convosco a visão da instituição que é de todos nós, que é a Força Aérea Portuguesa. Então, como se posiciona então a Força Aérea Portuguesa neste quadro estratégico que o Comandante Freitas apresentou? A Força Aérea sempre se destacou e faz parte da sua gênese por ser um ramo de vanguarda tecnológica, com aeronaves modernas, com quadros humanos extremamente especializados. E, para além disso, ou adicionalmente, a Força Aérea sempre assumiu com naturalidade e com orgulho a defesa do espaço aéreo nacional, através de vigilância e intervenção. E, como eu já referi, não havendo uma barreira física estabelecida, como há do mar para a terra, ou do ar para o mar, ou do ar para a terra, do ar para o espaço não há uma barreira física. Portanto, nós encaramos o espaço, nós, Força Aérea, como uma extensão natural do nosso habitat, do nosso métier, e então sentimos naturalmente este apelo, o mesmo amor que nos leva a voar e a utilizar o espaço aéreo, nos leva a querer explorar o espaço na sua plenitude. E não somos só nós, isto é um desejo internacional, várias forças aéreas estão a fazer o mesmo, como é o caso da espanhola, que se chamava Exército do Ar e agora chama-se Exército do Ar e do Espaço, como é o caso de Itália, da Grã-Bretanha, de França. Todas essas forças aéreas naturalmente sentiram o apelo e a obrigação de se estender de alguma forma ao espaço. E, adicionalmente, portanto, para além deste apelo natural que a Força Aérea sente em complementar, em fazer o seu papel dentro das Forças Armadas como um todo, a Força Aérea percebe perfeitamente que a exploração do domínio do espaço e o desenvolvimento das tecnologias associadas são, neste momento, um desígnio nacional, como já disse o Simões e o Freitas, nós percebemos isso, e percebendo isso, obrigatoriamente isto tornou-se uma prioridade para as Forças Armadas e obrigatoriamente tornou-se uma prioridade para a Força Aérea, sabendo nós que esse é um tal desígnio nacional. E porquê é que é um desígnio nacional? Pelas razões óbvias, mas é bom que nós percebamos cada vez mais, e o Simões fechou muito bem a perguntar à Teresa o que é que fazia sem GPS, e é preciso que as pessoas compreendam, e quando digo as pessoas, digo desde o mundo português até ao político com maior responsabilidade do nosso país, as pessoas têm de perceber que a promoção do progresso social, científico e tecnológico e a própria segurança coletiva depende cada vez mais do espaço. E não é só aquilo que nós associamos no imediato ao conforto de não ter GPS, vai muito mais para além disso. Se nós perdemos o espaço, nós, enquanto aliados, não é? Porque obviamente Portugal tem um impacto muito pequeno nesta matéria, mas se nós não contribuímos e se nós não percebemos que nós, aliados, perdemos a guerra do espaço, e basta ver o investimento brutal que os nossos adversários têm feito em tempos mais recentes, e tem sido um investimento gigantesco, que eu aqui não posso entrar em pormenores, mas de facto é conhecimento público, mas alguns países estão a investir porque sabem que é aqui que está a chave do futuro, sabem que é aqui que está a possibilidade de fazer o shutdown dos outros países com alguma facilidade, entre aspas, não é? Mas num só ponto. E já países como a França, na Segunda Guerra Mundial, construíram uma barreira intransponível de trincheiras, não é? A linha Maginot, e que seria, de alguma forma, a proteção contra os alemães. Diz a história que os alemães, em menos de 2 dias, passaram essa linha intransponível e tudo estava apostado naquela linha de trincheira, naquela linha Maginot, e essa fraqueza, esse fracasso dessa linha permitiu ou levou a que os franceses fossem facilmente invadidos por um país de dimensão semelhante. Ora, eu questiono, não eu, pessoas mais inteligentes que eu, questionam se o espaço não é a nossa linha Maginot agora, e se nós, através de perder se perdermos de alguma forma esta luta pela exploração do espaço, até que ponto não ficamos imediatamente, completamente expostos pelo facto de não conseguir navegar, de não conseguir comunicar, de não nos conseguirmos exercer comando e controle, etc. Portanto, é importante, parece à Força Aérea, que estes primeiros passos neste mundo espacial sejam dados com firmeza e com inteligência. E porquê é que eu digo isto? Porque é preciso calcular bem os custos. O comandante Freitas falou no investimento que está previsto em LPM, a Teresa disse que é relevante para o nosso país, é muito pequeno para aquilo que será necessário, portanto é preciso escolher onde é que se vai investir. É preciso perceber quais são os riscos de não investir. É preciso perceber quais são os riscos de investir no sítio errado. E é preciso perceber qual é o valor operacional desejado. Portanto, o que é que nós, à nossa dimensão, com este custo associado, o que é que nós queremos retirar disto? E nunca esquecendo das duas palavras que eu considero talvez as mais interessantes aqui, que é a interoperabilidade e a complementaridade. Porque nós temos que ser, obviamente, interoperáveis, mas nós temos que perceber que temos que ser complementares aos nossos aliados. Nós não temos hipótese nenhuma de explorar o espaço por nossa autocriação, por nosso próprio custo. Nós temos que perceber onde é que conseguimos ser a peça número 1000 de um puzzle de 1000 peças para os nossos aliados. E se nós conseguirmos ser essa peça 1000, seremos relevantes e seremos interessantes para os outros. E como a gestão internacional se faz à base de interesses, se nós não soubermos ser interessantes, naturalmente ninguém nos vai estender a mão. E obviamente a nossa, como já referiu também o comandante Simões, a nossa posição, localização geográfica é chave. Os Açores, enfim, há uma série talvez seja esta a nossa grande potencialidade, o nosso grande interesse, nomeadamente para os Estados Unidos da América, porque a nossa posição é muito interessante do ponto de vista defensivo deles, a nossa posição, especialmente mais longe dos Açores, é muito interessante. E depois, obviamente, temos 5,8 milhões de quilómetros quadrados à nossa responsabilidade no mar. Essencialmente nós e a Marinha, e quem anda no mar e quem anda no ar tem uma pequena noção da dimensão que isto é. E é importante, mais uma vez, que nós saibamos então escolher onde é que podemos ser pertinentes. Agora, talvez falando um bocadinho de coisas um bocadinho mais térreas e mesmo menos esotéricas, qual é a importância da tecnologia espacial para a Força Aérea? Bem, é toda, como eu comecei por dizer, o domínio do espaço para nós é crucial, ou pelo menos poder partilhar do conhecimento e o controle que providencia esta vantagem estratégica indiscutível, que é conseguir utilizar o espaço. Desde logo, e vou tentar não repetir aquilo que o Freitas e o Simão já disseram, mas obviamente desde logo as comunicações satélite, não é? Nós sem comunicações com alcance e fiabilidade, não é? Porque as comunicações valem o que valem se não chegarem, e a Força Aérea tem esta componente muito particular, é que vai bastante longe, portanto nós precisamos desse alcance e dessa fiabilidade. E este alcance e fiabilidade vai permitir que haja coordenação, que haja conhecimento situacional, que haja um processo de decisão mais informado. Portanto, comunicações satélites são interessantes. A intelligence, por outro lado, a intelligence, tanto nas dimensões ofensivas como defensivas, se eu não tiver a informação correta, eu não consigo colocar o meu armamento de precisão guiado por GPS no sítio que deveria, e só uma imagem, nós assistimos a isso hoje diariamente na televisão na Ucrânia, as imagens satélite que são providenciadas a ambas as partes são aquilo que dão vantagem também a ambas as partes a cada momento. Do ponto de vista defensivo também, porque são essas imagens que nos permitem saber onde é que estão as nossas ameaças, que são altamente móveis e dinâmicas nos dias de hoje. Antigamente, o míssil a terra-ar era gigante, era lento, andava em cima de um carro de combate e era previsível a sua movimentação. Hoje em dia não, e são estas imagens que nos podem ajudar. A meteorologia, não vou repetir, já foi referida aqui, mas obviamente tem um impacto significativo para a Força Aérea e ela é fundamental. A navegação também já foi referida, mas também obviamente é essencial. Nós estamos altamente dependentes da informação proveniente de satélite para poder navegar, e tanto, mais uma vez, tanto a Força Aérea como a Marinha estão muito sensíveis e são muito sensíveis a esta questão. E, no nosso caso também, o ataque ao solo, nós utilizamos, no modo geral, dois processos para guiar as nossas munições do ar para o solo. Uma delas é com um laser, não vou aqui entrar em pormenor, não tenho tempo para isso, mas a outra, que é uma das duas grandes, como eu referi, é o GPS. E se nós perdermos a capacidade de obter imaginem um avião que anda a 50 mil pés, a 2 vezes a velocidade do som, tem que ter uma taxa de refrescamento e de capacidade de adquirir os GPS para guiar o seu armamento incrível. Portanto, está completamente dependente desta questão. E resta dizer que, por exemplo, o guiamento laser tem uma limitação tremenda, que é a meteorologia, né? Nós precisamos ter contacto visual com os alvos para fazer o guiamento. O GPS não. O GPS tem outras fragilidades, que não estas, mas nesta matéria é muito mais forte. E para tentar concluir e não roubar mais do tempo disponível, deixaria só aqui alguns pontos sobre então as necessidades e atividades que a Força Aérea tem. Naturalmente, mais uma vez tentando não falar daquilo que já se falou, vou referir as gerações futuras dos radares de defesa aérea, que vão permitir vigilância e seguimento de objetos no low orbit, no low Earth orbit, no LEO, com altitudes inferiores a 300 km. Já foi abordado pelo Freitas a questão do Multi-Domain Information Fusion Center. Portanto, não vou falar do que é que ele é, o nome também o indica, mas é interessante perceber aqui, especialmente neste fórum, que se calhar, não diria que é inédito, mas de uma forma não muito comum, nós com isto estamos a tentar juntar interesses militares e civis, conhecimento militar e civil e investimento militar e civil, tudo no mesmo sítio, para também ter um output militar para militares e para civis. E este conceito é interessante por isso, é que é interessante que as empresas possam de alguma forma entrar connosco embarcar neste novo mundo. Depois, a questão, penúltimo ponto, a questão do conhecimento, eu acho que é essencial. Nós sempre, como eu comecei, a Força Aérea está habituada a trabalhar com tecnologia de ponta, mas há uma coisa que nós temos a certeza, é muito importante e demora muito tempo a formar pessoas. Quando as pessoas sabem do assunto, os equipamentos chegam e rapidamente se põem em atividade. Se nós estamos sentados à espera de ter o equipamento e depois ir adquirir o conhecimento, já perdemos, já fomos, como se costuma dizer. Portanto, a formação, apostar na formação e no treino, como falou o Freitas, as colocações nós, a Força Aérea, vai fazer o bidding para aumentar a nossa participação no comando aéreo da NATO na área espacial. O Freitas já referiu, as Forças Armadas estão a tentar colocar pessoas também no NATO Space of Excellence em França, no NATO Space Center of Excellence. Portanto, o conhecimento é extremamente importante e, mais uma vez, são aqui os civis que também podem ser complementares aos militares nesta matéria. Último ponto, e não vos maço mais, e como também já referiu Simões, a Força Aérea em termos de atividades, Força Aérea não, o país está a concorrer a um concurso europeu para tentar trazer tanto o GovSatcom Hub, que é um hub de comunicações classificadas, como o Irish Square, que é um centro de controle espacial, para Portugal. E, neste caso, a oferta nacional passa pelo comando aéreo, por Monsanto. Portanto, estamos a oferecer a instalação dessas infraestruturas aqui no comando aéreo, em Monsanto. Este concurso está a ser desenvolvido e, mais uma vez, para resumir a questão desta necessidade aqui de trabalharmos todos juntos, neste grupo de trabalho estão envolvidos o Ministério dos Negócios Estrangeiros, o Ministério da Ciência e Tecnologia, o Ministério da Economia, naturalmente o Ministério da Defesa, através das Forças Armadas e através do ENFA, através dos ramos, através do ENFA e através das duas direções gerais, mas também a PT Space e também a ANACOM estão envolvidas neste. Portanto, é interessante ver como todas estas áreas percebem a importância e todas elas estão a tentar chegar a este desígnio juntos. Pronto, para não roubar mais tempo, especialmente ao meu camarada do Exército que me segue, agradeço a vossa atenção e, mais uma vez, agradeço também o convite endereçado à Força Aérea e espero ter participado da melhor forma. Cumprimentos a todos, aqueles que nos estão a ouvir e aos meus colegas de painel.
Ok, excelente. Muito obrigada. Muito obrigada, Coronel João Rosa. Aqui muitas ideias também em cima da mesa, muito food for thoughts, como se costuma dizer. Portanto, realçar também a independência do espaço, o conceito de investimento inteligente, que eu também acho que é muito interessante, tornar-nos relevantes, não é? Em conjunto, mas sermos relevantes, termos alguma coisa que seja útil para estarmos presentes. Depois também a parte do conhecimento, claro, e da cooperação. Eu passaria agora para o Tenente Coronel Nuno Mira.
Bom dia a todos. Saudar o Sr. Comandante Freitas, o Sr. Comandante Simões, o Sr. Coronel Rosa e a Teresa. Eu a Teresa já conhecia de outro fórum. Nós trabalhamos na área do posicionamento do Galileu, um projeto que depois acabou por não avançar muito. Eu tinha aqui uma pequena apresentação muito focada para aquilo que são as necessidades operacionais do Exército, até porque, efetivamente, o Exército tem um interesse no espaço muito na ótica do utilizador, realmente a Força Aérea onde vai controlar e há de ser a Força Aérea ir para o espaço, como o Sr. Comandante, como o Sr. Coronel Rosa disse muito bem, portanto, não há ali uma barreira que separa. E nós, Exército, vamos ser muito utilizadores do espaço e as normas enquadrantes que o Sr. Comandante Freitas apresentou muito bem, orientam muito esta estratégia da defesa para o espaço e aquilo que o Exército vai utilizar de uma forma muito clara. E, portanto, eu acabei por optar por fazer aqui uma pequena apresentação de quais é que são as nossas necessidades, uma vez que isto é uma apresentação para empresas que têm interesse em contribuir para a defesa nacional no âmbito do espaço, e eu vocacionei os meus slides e a minha apresentação muito nesse sentido. O interesse do Exército no espaço, podemos dizer que são em 4 grandes vetores: o vetor comunicações, o vetor navegação, o vetor Intel Fusion e o vetor de investigação e desenvolvimento. No âmbito das comunicações, como já foi referido anteriormente, sem comunicações não há comando, não há controlo, não há, não há chegar onde nós necessitamos de chegar, e efetivamente, tendo em conta as missões, peço desculpa, tendo em atenção as missões atribuídas ao Exército, em que temos uma elevada panóplia de forças distribuídas, ainda hoje saiu nas notícias que estamos a projetar mais um contingente para a República Centro-Africana, e a comunicação com esses contingentes de forças que nós temos é essencial, e essencial com uma boa largura de banda e com segurança. Portanto, aquilo que nós queremos comunicar tem classificação de defesa, portanto, classificação de segurança é importante. Esta comunicação entre os vários teatros e o território nacional, que até mesmo, se nós pensarmos, por exemplo, na República Centro-Africana, a própria dimensão do país, com pequenos elementos projetados a centenas, se não milhares de quilómetros, é necessário, mesmo dentro das forças, ter comunicações seguras fora da linha de vista, como já foi referido. E a comunicação por satélite é efetivamente uma excelente solução para responder a essas nossas necessidades. Nós já utilizamos, mas realmente a capacidade de aumentar a largura de banda e diminuir os tempos de latência das comunicações é muito importante. Outro aspecto muito importante, o outro vetor, é realmente o posicionamento e a navegação. Nós trabalhamos no mapa, trabalhamos na Terra e todos os fenómenos acontecem em algum lado. Eu não referi, não me apresentei, mas não referi, eu sou engenheiro geógrafo, trabalho a georreferenciação, o posicionamento, e efetivamente, se o GPS não funcionar, temos a carta, temos que saber navegar pela carta, temos o papel, é o sistema base que sempre utilizamos, mas efetivamente ao ritmo que o campo de batalha, os teatros de operações evoluem, é necessário realmente sistemas de localização de armas fiáveis, resilientes, que garantam a fiabilidade do funcionamento, mesmo em condições de grande utilização do espectro eletromagnético, nomeadamente em caso de empastelamento do espectro. Portanto, temos que conseguir, através de sensores inerciais que utilizem espaços de informação de satélite, portanto, quer os sistemas de localização e orientação das armas, sistemas seguros de navegação do terreno, portanto, principalmente quando estamos em situações que é necessário movimentar forças de grandes distâncias, é preciso movimentá-las para o sítio certo, e também os sistemas de seguimento, realmente saber onde é que estão as nossas forças, e um dos projetos que eu vou falar mais à frente, o projeto do Soldado do Futuro, prevê inclusive o seguimento e a monitorização do estado de saúde do militar individualmente, não só da força, das viaturas, mas também do militar. No que concerne ao terceiro vetor que eu mencionei, Intel Fusion, efetivamente a utilização de imagens com informação do que é que se passa no terreno, portanto, e como já foi referido, aquilo que se passa aqui a 4.000 quilómetros na Ucrânia, a vantagem de ter informação atualizada em tempo quase real ou com grandes resoluções temporais, ou seja, revisita muito curto espaço de tempo e eventualmente alguma permanência de observação para acompanhar operações, é muito importante. E isso reveste-se de importância quer nas imagens ópticas, quer nas imagens não ópticas, nomeadamente os dados de radar de abertura sintética, porque, efetivamente, em termos operacionais para o Exército, é ali ao nascer do sol que as operações se desencadeiam. Portanto, todo o montar das operações ocorre durante a noite. Portanto, o óptico não tem essa capacidade, o SAR hoje em dia tem essa capacidade com grande resolução, e a grande vantagem do satélite é esta, porque no espaço, como não há barreiras, não há fronteiras, nós podemos ter um satélite a vigiar um determinado território sem ter autorização de voo. Portanto, e isso é muito importante. Isso tudo complementado por dados geográficos, desde os modelos tridimensionais de superfície, de cidades, ajuda também no planeamento, na simulação de operações, no treino, e numa grande economia de meios humanos, realmente quando fomos fazer a operação é necessário ter um pleno conhecimento do terreno. Tenho aqui um outro ponto, o seguinte, porque se nós queremos ter comunicações seguras, também devemos ser capazes, de alguma forma, de conseguir obter informações sobre as fontes rádio do inimigo e, eventualmente, conseguir escutar as suas comunicações e os seus dados. Também é um ponto que é uma necessidade levantada dentro do Exército. E o último vetor, a investigação e desenvolvimento. O Exército tem a decorrer vários projetos, e estes são os projetos que nós temos neste momento a decorrer. O projeto AMIDA é um projeto financiado pela PESC, tem ali aqueles pontos-chave que muito se funde enquanto utilizadores do espaço, de informação geográfica de qualidade e atualizada, a questão da gestão de frotas, não só em tempo de paz, mas também, não só em tempo de guerra, mas também em tempo de paz. O projeto do Soldado do Futuro, que eu já mencionei, em que realmente nós queremos observar e seguir o soldado individualmente e saber como é que ele está, o estado de saúde dele, se há algum problema e conseguir comunicar com ele, não só saber onde ele está. E estamos a prever na LPM o upgrade de vários sistemas de armas para melhorar a nossa capacidade de resposta e eficiência, e por isso este upgrade de sistemas de armas vai incluir, e inclui com certeza, ferramentas de posicionamento e navegação com recurso a sistemas de posicionamento espacial, muito possivelmente o Galileu, o GPS e os serviços que o Galileu, os serviços seguros de elevada fiabilidade que o Galileu já tem previstos, mas que ainda não somos utilizadores. Portanto, e efetivamente, são estes os 4 grandes desafios que o ramo Exército tem e que eu deixo aqui às empresas em complementaridade àquilo que já foi apresentado pelos meus camaradas mais antigos e que apresentaram antes de mim. Muito obrigado pela atenção.
Muito obrigada, Tenente Coronel Nuno Mira. Portanto, tivemos aqui imensa informação para mim, eu estou aqui a tirar apontamentos furiosamente, espero que tenha sido tão interessante para todos como foi para mim. Do meu ponto de vista, isto é o início de um diálogo, portanto, neste momento não vou abrir para perguntas, porque também temos 3 minutos e, portanto, vamos continuar assim, não temos nenhuma pergunta e, portanto, vou só tentar sumarizar tudo o que foi dito, não sei, mas assim muito rapidamente tentar sumarizar o que consegui ter aqui em tempo real, vamos dizer assim. Portanto, uma coisa muito interessante que é focar nas pessoas. Portanto, todos nós estamos focados nas pessoas, nos conhecimentos que temos que ter para avançar. Todos mencionaram cooperação, portanto, cooperação não só interministerial, como também indústria, comunidade científica, tecnológica, cooperação civil-militar e depois a exploração das sinergias. As sinergias não só dos investimentos inteligentes, das várias fontes, mas também dos meios. Finalmente, outro ponto que todos também mencionaram foi a parte do conhecimento e da inovação, portanto, muito falando de tecnologias espaciais, claro, SATCOM, PNT, navegação, observação, Intel Fusion, mas depois também a camada de segurança e outras tecnologias, porque o espaço não está sozinho, o espaço é visto como um meio, por exemplo, cibersegurança no espaço, foi muito falado aqui também na parte da segurança aliada à tecnologia espacial, indústria 4.0, e todos mencionaram muitas iniciativas que já estão a decorrer, eu não conhecia todas, confesso. E, portanto, temos aqui, eu acho, um espaço pela frente, um início de diálogo muito, muito interessante, um diálogo que tem que ser nacional numa primeira instância e depois também internacional para continuarmos. Quero agradecer a todos em nome da AED e deixar aqui também a disponibilidade para continuar este diálogo. Imagino que o José Rosa Dias vai dizer exatamente isso, portanto passo agora para si. Muito obrigada a todos.
Thank you so much, Teresa. It was great that we recover time, so we are almost on schedule. Thank you for the panelists. We are jumping to another subject. I'm just waiting for the new participants. Let's have some time to allow them to enter.
Good morning.
Okay, we have Alvaro. Everybody connecting. Let me just confirm we have everybody on board. 1, 2, 3. I'm still missing Madame Piedad. Okay, he's arriving. Well, I will start in between, just making a reference for what we have attended this morning. We have started with some ongoing programs that industry are running in Portugal, of course, in favor of our cluster in aeronautics, space and defense. We went through the cybersecurity and the need of competencies or people skilled to operate in these cyber environments. We have seen some use cases of application of satellites. We have discussed the application of satellites and all the space assets in the military environment, and now we are coming down to the earth and looking for a more effective and real immediate need regarding the application of all these systems, of all these capabilities. We are the subject of our panel. It will be supporting the Navy of the future. What are the challenges for Portugal? And for this discussion, we will have Commandant Lourenço da Piedade, that is the head of the Innovation and Transformation Division at Navy Staff. We have Guilherme Beleza Vaz from Blue Oasis, Álvaro Campos from Beyond Vision, Nuno Cruz, that is the coordinator of the Center for Robotics and Autonomous Systems at INESTEC, and from Thales, Martin Jost. Thank you for your presence. It's a great pleasure to have you here, and I would like, we will have a discussion for the next 50-something minutes. And I would like to start with Commandant Piedade, asking what is his main role in the Navy, and what are the big challenges that he has to propose us to be discussed today. João, the floor is yours, or the screen in this case.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So as José Rodrigues mentioned, I'm the head of the Innovation Division at the Portuguese Naval Staff. And mainly what we do is try to align our strategy with the results or the deliverables of industry and academia, and try to identify what could be our challenges in introducing the new technologies, or as we now used to say, the disruptive and emergent technologies into our capabilities. So mainly what we have done on the past years, and just to be brief, and so we can have a discussion later. What we have done, we have created the Innovation Division, and that was a main goal into trying to align the strategy and try to align the industry with the academia and the needs of the Navy as an end user. Also, we try to so we established different infrastructures to help in these alignments, like our operational experimentation center that probably everyone already have heard about, based in Troia, and also the Ethnographic Institute Sensortech, that is another infrastructure focus on the cooperation between academia, industry, and the Navy. That the later one more focus on developing sensors to look into the ocean. So our greatest challenge, I can say, that is to look into our defense procurement law and try to identify where we can, as an end user, benefit from the development of new technologies into our new capabilities, and introduce those new technologies in our new capabilities in cooperation with industry. So as you are probably all aware, we design ships and think about the requirements, and it normally takes a long time from the definition of the requirements until the procurement, and then we will use those vessels in more than 30 years. So it's a great challenge to for a vessel since the first day that we think about the new capability or the new vessel until the end of the life goes about 40 years. So to be in the edge of the new technology is a great challenge.
Thank you, João. Now we have to look for the industry and understand what they are able to provide, and I give the floor to Guilherme, who explain us what Blue Oasis does and what we can expect from them, how they can help the process.
Hello.
Hello. The Navy.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon or good morning. So my name is Guilherme Savas. I'm Portuguese, but with more 50% Dutch almost. So I recognize Martin Joosten, that for sure is a Dutch name. I'm an aerospace engineer with a PhD on maritime engineering. So it's like an aerospace guy that went into the water. After 18 years in the Netherlands, I came back to Portugal, and I started a SME, or a startup, as now it's fancy to say. And we brought a lot of knowledge from the Northern Europe on aerodynamics, but also a lot on maritime, on what we call the Industry 4.0. So high performance computing, modeling, sensors, and a lot of artificial intelligence. So we are a company, and we are doing applied research. That's a concept that exists in Northern Europe. That's not only research, is not only done in universities. And so we are applied research and company. And we do engineering, design, and analysis using this concept on Industry 4.0. Three major targets: offshore renewables, maritime platforms, and Navy vessels. So, and this touches the point of Commandant João Piedade, the Navy vessels. So we have done some works in the past also on underwater acoustics, on optimization of hulls, on decreasing, on optimizing the propulsion, diminishing or decreasing the signatures of underwater of Navy vessels, underwater of surface vessels. So all kinds of engineering and R&D around design and analysis of Navy vessels, including now also interaction between drones and ships. We have a project with Damen that we go to the wind tunnel, where we're going to do studies on the interaction of drones and Navy platforms. So all these kinds of things, high-tech applied R&D, we used to do for the Dutch navies, we used to do for other navies, and now we would like also to use that knowledge for the Portuguese Navy. So I hope we can help Commandant João Piedade, but not only him, the Navy, the Portuguese Navy, to develop or design or think about the future of the Portuguese Navy.
Thank you, Guilherme. I give the floor to Álvaro for the same question. How can you help us? How can Beyond Vision is looking for the market, especially for the Navy department, Navy market?
Of course. First of all, good morning, everyone. I am Álvaro Ramos. I'm the CTO of Beyond Vision. What that means is I oversee all of the technology and all of the developments in the direction that we're heading in. We also came, and we also have a very strong background in R&D. We started as a purely an R&D company operating in European and Portuguese research programs that we are still actively in. And Beyond Vision at this point is a UAV manufacturer. So we developed everything in-house, from the structures, aerodynamic, electronics, the software on the drone, and then we go a step forward and we get into the command center, the cloud platform that ties it all together under an ecosystem. And the way I see that we have a lot to work together with the Navy, and we can help them as much as they can help us, is we are operating at the fringe of science, as I recognize Piedad said, and it's a must when you're designing something that must operate for the next 30, 40 years. We need to be on the fringe of science, and more than that, we need to be very aware that on some 5, 10 years from now, our system need to be able to evolve into something new. And that is very much the approach that Beyond Vision brings to the table on all of our assets, be it the UAVs or the software that is on them, the software on the cloud platform. What they are is tools that will enable not only the challenges that the Navy is facing today, but also the new challenges that we don't even know that they exist, and they will come forward later on. So they are very versatile platforms that are modular, that are able to be interoperable, interchangeable. So all of those buzzwords, they exist not because they are buzzwords, but because everybody has recognized so far that they are a need that will enable the not only these use cases that we already know, but also the future ones. So that's the point that we are in right now with the Navy.
Thank you, Álvaro. The same question to Nuno. Nuno, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the invitation to congratulate all the members. This is a very important topic here. So I come from Inestec. Inestec is a private non-profit research institution. So we are about 800 people working in several areas of engineering. So we are dividing into centers. So my center is the Center for Robotics and Autonomous Systems. So I'm a coordinator of this center. We are roughly 80 people. So it's quite a strong team of people dedicated to, let's say, outdoors robotics. And one of the key is the sea. So we've been involved in so many projects from R&D, the most basic research, until the higher readiness levels. So with real applications for industry or even for the Navy. So we've been collaborating with Commander Piedad in particular, but with other people from the Navy for many years. We started participating in the REPMUS. It's a very well-known exercise, NATO exercise organized by the Navy. We had the opportunity to test our systems and vehicles. We are collaborating also in some cases within the framework of projects, R&D projects. So we think that this partnership with the Navy in particular is very important. It's one of the aspects that we've been targeting because it's clearly demanding robotic solutions for underwater applications. So we don't cover only the underwater, let's say, medium, but it's clearly the most challenging where we are working. And I think probably the environment where there's more need for robotic solutions. Basically, as everybody knows, so the perception ability underwater is very limited because of radio propagation, even vision propagation. So it's very challenging for navigation, for positioning, and so it's a very challenging environment that we are targeting within our group.
Thank you so much, Nuno. We have also what we used to call a big shark, Thales, that has a big footprint in Portugal. And Martin, what Thales has to offer us regarding the Navy sector.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm working at Thales in Netherlands. And for Navy, we already work for over 100 years on Navy programs and projects. And our main items there are sensors, radar and electro-optics, a CMS, tactical CMS for naval ships, and also the one of the core items is fire control system. And at this moment, we are working on a new fire control concept, which is performance-based. If you look at evolving threats at the moment, you can see that the threats will be faster and more in number. And the crews of the ships are, at least in the Netherlands, less skilled because of they have less possibility to train, less ships to sail on. So we have to anticipate on that by making the fire control system more capable of filling the gap with the new threats and the skills of the operators. So we talk about a performance-based fire control system there as a sort of a controlled by veto. You can put it in automatically, and it will react on targets, etc. And if the operator says we're not going to do that, he presses the button. That's the concept, and of course changes are always possible, but the main reason is that you can do it automatically and also push the button by veto to stop something. That's one thing. Me myself, I'm a product manager at Thales, and I'm working at this moment at a new modeling and simulation environment where you can simulate and also train crews. And the purpose of the training will be that you are training as you fight and not something with loose ends. So the training environment that we are setting up use for, let's say, for a ship, a simulation module for the missile and for the VLS, for the launch system, but it takes into account the real fire control software. So simulations are done then with the real fire control software. So you don't need a model of that software. So you train with the actual software that's nearly train as you fight, because it's very realistic there. That's what I'm putting up at this moment. It's not there yet, but it will be on the new above seawater warfare frigates for the Netherlands Navy. The other thing I'm working at the moment is naval collaborative surveillance. Together with France, we are doing tests on that. But next year there will be a European order project going on. Naval collaborative surveillance, ENAXOS named, where also Portugal is part of, and the purpose of that project is that we will have a European standard for sharing in the force contacts and plots faster than with the data link, with the tactical data link. So that's if the EU will agree with it in this month, it will start from the 1st of January and take 4 years into account. And after the 4 years, we will we are looking forward to have a European standard against the American CAC. I think that's how we could help the Navy as well.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Back to Commander Piedad. Being you the innovation and transformation division leader, and of course leading an excellent team that we had already the chance to meet previously. What are in which direction are you thinking that you will drive the Navy? What are the emerging technologies that you think for the moment that could be applicable in your operations in the next 10 years, and how the time of how time is critical on the application of those technologies regarding the development, the test, and the operation usage, how the management of these projects are important to you.
So the challenges are huge because the technology evolves on a speed that we cannot follow the speed of the evolution of the technology. But there is a lot of talk about the robotization of war and robotization of the armed forces. But as everyone I've heard probably on the opening speech by the Chief of the Navy, there will be 17 new platforms that we will try to sign the contracts this year. So we will need the platforms. So what is inside of the platforms are what we need to probably tackle on with a different approach. So we will need to have more a sort of a plug and play approach. Be able to integrate new technologies when they are developed and when they are put online. So the idea for the future is to have platforms operating with open architecture systems where we can plug and play new sensors, new weapons, and even new applications on top of what we have on our daily basis of the operation. So new features like artificial intelligence for sure will be a huge benefit in all the different areas, not just on the operation, but also in the maintenance of the ships. So that I don't know if you already heard this expression that was also introduced by the Chief of the Navy. In the future, we will have ships with carbon sailors and silica sailors. So the idea is to have the silica sailors side by side with the carbon sailors operating on the maintenance and looking into the operations. So I think that the hugest challenge is to introduce that open architecture structure of all the systems on board, and to start to introduce the new features online as soon as possible, so we can benefit and learn from the usage of those new features.
And how time is critical on that process?
Time, as I have said, the time is critical because we are launching the 4 new classes of ships with 17 ships. So the requirements are already designed. So time is really critical to try to introduce those new technologies in all those new ships, to try, because we will use those ships for the next 30 years for sure. So
yeah, for sure they will have several updates being born or trying to born modular and open architecture oriented, that will give us more options, opportunities to include different capabilities, and from those capabilities provide the Navy with a wide range of possibilities for your operations. And that is my question to the providers in this case, and I would like to start again with Martin. How do you in Netherlands or in Thales, being a big player in this market, how do you look for these emerging technologies? What are the technologies that are more fancy or more trendy for you to invest now, and what are your perspectives of implementing them, meaning time-wise? What do you see in the next future to be the offer from your side to the Portuguese Navy or to the other navies? Martin.
Yes, one of the major things will be naval collaborative surveillance. Like I said, the European thing that could be an answer to cooperate and to sail together with other partners, because you can share your information with others via a architecture we are designing in the next few years, other than via the tactical data link. That's one of the I think the major things if you look at force planning and force engagements. This will be the first step, naval collaborative surveillance, so that you can share the picture with others. The next step will be that you are looking into force engagements, so that you can also as a force do engagements and do that together. You can see that the navies are up until now still shrinking. Perhaps they are going to grow now again, but that means that you need to cooperate with your allies. Together we are stronger than out there alone.
Thank you, Martin. I would like to ask Nuno about probably the robotization of the warfare, the robotization of the systems. What are the big challenges you foresee? What are the technologies you think that will pop up in the near future that can power up our Navy?
Okay, it's a very tough question because I could speak 1 hour about that. So we have multiple technologies that we are targeting now that I think may be useful for the, let's say, the Navy of the future. So we are working on multiple. So the first level is on the vehicle performance. So when you're talking about robots underwater, there's so a lot of things that we need to improve, starting by navigation accuracy. So where is data being taken? So where do we get information from underwater? Also, what we can find and we can identify in real time. So we call that the perception. On the perception level, we have a very strong team working on these levels of perception that allows new maneuvers or new behaviors. As an example, we are working towards, for example, autonomous docking. So the ability of a vehicle to attach to some structure for recharging or for getting new information underwater. So it's a huge step because only a few years ago, sonars underwater were used to avoid obstacles. And now we are reversing it. And we are already able to not only not avoiding, but on the other hand, try to get in contact with structures underwater. So that's a huge step on the vehicle side. Naturally, we are working on other dimensions of endurance. So having higher efficiency motion, so we can be at the sea for longer terms, receiving energy from the environment or optimizing the trajectory. So that's one on the vehicle side. There's also another important direction that is on the software side, so on the algorithms and the real-time computing. On that aspect, we are also implementing new capabilities that are no longer, trajectory, go from A to B, but also having the vehicles autonomously deciding what to do next. So it's a very important step because it's only possible when you have very reliable systems, that you are sure that they have supervision layers that are making sure that everything is done within a very good level of safety. In that respect, the new trend that everybody is talking about, ChatGPT and all these new tools of artificial intelligence, I think it has a very good potential to be a game changer in this area. So until now, we are using a lot of machine learning techniques for improving what we get, what information we get from the environment. But now we are in the point where we can having vehicles making decisions how to optimize trajectories based on what they are sensing, not only where they are, also what they are sensing in real time. And lastly, on a different road, we are also targeting systems of systems. So interaction between different systems, again, in the marine environment. And for example, in a particular case, and we are involving the Navy in this project, so that's why I'm also bringing this to the table. We have a project together with MIT, in a MIT Portugal collaboration, where we are targeting the interaction, let's say, between sensors that are in communication cables. So they call it smart cables. So underwater cables that already have sensors, mainly for acoustics, detection and tracking. And we are complementing that with autonomous vehicles that are getting data around those cables. So all these new possibilities that come with these systems of systems collaborating towards a larger goal. So I think it's a very important, let's say, direction that we foresee in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years.
Okay, thank you so much, Álvaro. Being Beyond Vision, a company that works mainly with drones, with autonomous systems, and collecting information and merging that information, what are the trends that you are pursuing these days to offer to the operational scenario capabilities, new capabilities? What are the driving technologies that you are looking for?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so under this topic, again, a lot to talk about. I'll try to keep it short. We got to start from understanding that vessels, they are not defined only by themselves, but they are only vessels when you take the garrison accounted, right? So that's what defines the vessel. And so the fact that the same vessel can perform several missions or adapt to different environments or deployments is very interesting. And that's the direction that we also share, or the same mindset with the Navy: modularity, interoperability. And what I mean by that is the same drone, the same asset, being able to be fitted with different sensors to accomplish different tasks, or multiple tasks even at once. That is a very interesting road that we're walking right now. Going further than that, obviously we're trying to optimize range, performance, all of those factors, but also integration into a system of systems, as our colleague just talked about. And what that means is that, and I like this because it's touching all the points that we just talked about, the fact that we are stronger together. NATO is very much aware of that on the Navy side. So a lot of mindset is being put into having a common standard into all of the assets that are operating unmanned, not only underwater, surface, air, a common stack, so to say, that fits them all together, and that enables these open software, these open hardware platforms that we are designing at Beyond Vision, and saying, hey, we are a force together, right? We're allies. So first and foremost, we need to operate these assets, and they need to be very good at their performance. But more than that, we need to be able to adapt them to what we're encountering, and be able to exchange data and enable new use cases there, where we are able to deploy a force and then hand it over to another Navy that's maybe in a better position to do that, where they have better range, better communication, but whatever it is, the conditions are better. And so that's the direction that we're walking. And naturally, because as we said, we're at the fringe of science, AI is present in our minds every day. And so perception is also a lot of what we're trying to do with AI at this point, especially when we take into account the state of the art of the counter UAS systems. Right at this point, it's really much about depriving the systems of communication of satellites, spoofing them, targeting them. And so at this point, we're trying to narrow it down into having AI operate systems that are deprived of even satellite communications, right? Making them that level of autonomous. That's a very big challenge that we're trying to tackle. But that's not a near future at this point, but it's a very interesting challenge, I think.
Time-wise, what do you foresee?
For this sort of?
Yeah.
I would say it's not for this year, not for next year. I think at least for Beyond Vision. I know that there are a lot of other companies out there, even drone companies that are doing that. Shield AI, I think, is very sonant about that. They're trying to put F-16s being driven by AI. And they're doing that in cooperation with the US military forces. And then, but I can't give you a number now. It would be just a lot.
I know it's a tricky question.
But again, this philosophy also sort of makes you a little bit bulletproof in terms of the time span of what's new technology, right? The fact that you can adapt new modules, new sensors, new equipments into your already existing vessel, right? The fact that you have that backbone there is what's going to make it time proof, right?
Yeah. Let me give the floor to Guilherme to understand how someone that comes from the sky sciences to the sea foresees this incorporation of new technologies, these emerging solutions that results from this exercise.
I find it amazing that I mean I'm an aerospace engineer, but and I follow all these all developments regarding drones and underwater vehicles, because since I've been doing naval architecture, for me the most appealing object underwater was a submarine, because it looked like an airplane, to be honest, because it was not a free surface. So and that means I'm seeing a lot what happens in the airspace or in the on the aerodynamics realm, but we work more on the free surface vessels and the underwater vessels. And there's a lot of synergies, as I said, that even interactions of drones and ships, it's a big issue. Even in terms of aerodynamics, imagine having a small drone trying to land in a ship that is in a big storm, or is sailing 20 knots and with a lot of drones, that causes a lot of troubles. So even for the normal aerodynamics of the ship's hydro and aero has to be changed in this new realm of the new platforms, you know, AI-based drones. So I follow that, but our specialty is much more on underwater or on water. And two things that we are trying to do that it's more towards the future, like everybody's saying, two small things compared with everybody said, is new platforms. I think we have heard all the Admiral Gouveia de Melo speaking about the new frontier of colonizing the ocean. So we would like to help, and we are already thinking on how to make, because that's also our DNA, how to make new platforms that you can really live on the ocean. So imagine floating islands that it's not so far and it's not so different than oil and gas, but you just have to make it a little bit more appealing. So new floating offshore platforms where you can have military bases, but also energy production, or even hotels, or even cities. And I think in the Netherlands, most of the things are being made floating. I worked at Maren before, where there were already 10 years ago projects for floating cities, because as you know, when the water is going up, there's no dike that can increase continuously, so they have to be floating. So the floating is the future, both in energy, but also on living, and both on conquering the rest of our planet, that it's ocean, and do it in a sustainable way. So that's on the surface vessel, on the surface realm, and underwater. And that's very much more interesting. We are working a lot on underwater acoustics. And because to see underwater, it's to hear. And underwater acoustics, both modeling. There's a lot of models already from almost the 19th century that a lot of people are not using, but also AI based. So we are working on digital twins of underwater systems that can detect any threats. And we have words not only military, but the Nord Streams and the submarine cables. So I think acoustics and artificial intelligence in that matter is a very important stuff. So we're working both on the free surface and underwater vessels on these things. In terms of timelines, it's like things are advancing very fast. So even AI, whatever we programmed already 6 months ago, is obsolete. So, I mean, the ChatGPT, it's now a big buzz, but we already saw it coming 2 years ago, and that will be also just already version 4 or 5. So it's really super fast. If you are not fast, you will be obsolete. I know that in terms of military, people are more conservative because there has to be a lot of redundancies and it has to be much more solid. But this world of AI, I mean, if you're planning for 2 or 3 years ago, 2-3 years ahead,
yeah.
It's a huge. I think Alvaro can confirm. It's a huge. I mean, before we planned 10 years in ahead, now already 2. It's already daring.
Yeah. Thank you for your perspective, Guilherme. I would like to come back to Martin to ask how is his experience of tailoring these new solutions, these new possibilities, new technologies with the needs of the Navy in the case we are discussing. How do you align your offer with the needs? How can you collect the needs from your user to your development?
Yes, I already heard that new sensors could be on the platform, etc., etc. So your platform needs to be upgradable. We at the moment are producing sensors with not only hardware in it, but also with software. That means that you can upgrade software and then do an update of your sensor by changing the software. And actually, you can do that more or less continuously because if you have a continuous improvement program, you can get software upgrades on a regular basis. That's not yet installed in the sense that it's already working, but we are talking about that with the Royal Netherlands Navy, our home customer, for some of the new sensors to look into that and to have the most appropriate changes and upgrades available. So that's one of the ways to do that. And the other thing is that we used to develop in close contact with our home client, with the Netherlands Navy, and look into the future more or less together. What will be the challenge? Where are they heading at, and how can we develop the gaps they need in the future? So that's how we more or less develop for the home client for the Netherlands Navy, and the related products and projects will be on the market as well for other customers.
Martin, do you have a systematic process to do that collection of needs from your Navy, or is case by case? How does it work in your environment?
Yeah, it depends. For some areas, we have a long history of studying together where products result from. Let's say if you look into ballistic missile defense, I think the Thales already from the end of the 90s, they started to do studies together, and you can see that the new Smart L resulted from those studies. So it's a product developed from 2012 to 2017, and it was based on studies we did together with MDA, with US, on ballistic missile defense and on radar technology for that. So that's one part, and yeah, the other thing is that we very much listen to what the customer needs are, and look how we can make a solution for that.
But how can a disruptive solution, a disruptive technology be adapted to something that the Navy doesn't know yet they will need? How does it work in your environment?
That's a good question.
Now, do you have any process? Do you have any organization that support that? Looking back to the beginning of the UAVs, for instance, nobody in the armed forces were using that capability, and bringing that capability allows them to do war or to do operations in a different way. How do you pass these new capabilities or this kind of new capabilities to the real operations when you are developing something in having an operative scenario in mind, and probably is not exactly the same operative scenario that the Navy in this case may have? How do you make that alignment?
Yes, I'm not in that area, I think, and I'm working at Thales for 7 years now. I came from the Royal Netherlands Navy, but I think that's a challenge, still a challenge, because but now I speak on my own personal meeting and not on the Thales meeting. I think we are so busy that we are working on projects and orders that we perhaps forget to think about new developments and to get the customer into that. That's my personal meaning there, but that's something what we definitely should do. But we are in our present market so busy doing our things that perhaps that is prior number 2.
Martin, I'm also a former military, and I have to put this question. Do you see the incorporation of former militaries in these companies to help this translation of needs from the operational side to the industrial side a good solution for that?
Yes, because they can bring in operational knowledge, and also have understanding from what the products are being used for and used with. So yes, I'm sure that will help, and also and that's the second advantage. They bring in a network and keep the lines very short to the operational customer.
I also share that opinion. Thank you, Martin. Back to the national environment. Nuno, what are the difficulties that you at your center feel regarding collecting the needs from the operationals, and how are you able, how do you proceed to to transfer the new capabilities you are able to design to the operational side? How this bridge is made in your organization?
What's interesting about the Navy environment is obviously the operational aspect. So we need to be very strong on the readiness level. So the equipment needs to be not only for research but for operation. And we have been targeting this issue for some time now. So I don't think it's a secret. We have a memorandum of understanding with the Navy. So we try to target that with let's say periodic discussions about the needs of the Navy. But on another aspect, I think it's important that we also involve the Navy in some of our developments. So it's interesting because the topic of this panel is, supporting the Navy of the future, and I see the Navy of the future as also a research institution. So I think the Navy, we don't, in our discussions, internal discussions, we don't only see the Navy as a, let's say, a buyer that is going to use our systems, but a partner where we can, develop some of the items together. We know this is also an interest of the Navy. It's been discussed. Obviously, they probably has to be started with a smaller, specific competence niche. But I think it's very important if we can, so not only merge the Navy in their needs, but also bring the Navy towards the development cycle. So I think that's one important thing to bridge this gap. So I think we obviously need to do our job, but also try to improve the collaboration in terms of research. We've been doing that also, as I said before, in the participation of these exercises. So the Navy exercises are a very good place where we can see what's been done, not only from our Navy, but also other, in this case, NATO navies. And so I think we are pretty much aware of the needs. We are very well informed in many forums about what are the new, let's say, ideas for the Navy. This new vessel, the robotics interest they have. So we are carefully checking the demands, and I think we've been trying to bridge the gap with these projects. And just to finalize, we've been having some joint proposals. So it's one way to foster this collaboration. Proposals in European projects, not only, as I said, not only to see the Navy as an end user, but try to also motivate a little bit the Navy to help in specific developments. And we've been getting very good feedback from them. So I'm very optimistic about this future.
Thank you, Nuno. The same question to Álvaro. Álvaro, how do you collect the needs? How do you adapt your emerging technologies, your ability to provide new capabilities to this specific user, the Navy?
Yes, definitely a challenge when you have to consider time to markets, when you have to consider costs, when you have to consider that this is a very complex system of systems, right? This single asset is already a system of systems on its own. And so if you don't introduce or start introducing these, what are the requirements at a very early stage, and if you don't keep updating them with time, then you're going to end up having to adapt something to fit the needs, which will very typically end up in not a very good performance on all of the needs. And so the short answer is through proximity. How do we achieve that is the challenge, being an SME. And I think that we've been heading in the right direction, especially through Comandante Piedade and through other members of the Portuguese Navy in fostering and fueling that proximity. Because if the military, in this case the Navy, pays attention to the industry and fuels it, then it will also, make the industry look towards what are the needs of the Navy, instead of doing something because it's appealing and then trying to adapt that to the Navy's needs. And that is a very important thing to do. And I think that is a very positive path that we're been going on, and proximity is what we're trying to achieve through trying to have meetings with them. As Nunu just said, it's a very, very positive way of doing that, having their feedback on very early on stages without expecting anything in return other than just their experience, and their operational experience is very valuable also. And then through the usage of their centers of experimentation that are very novel, and quite frankly, they're a very, very important pillar on this proximity front. And I think that is I can go on about it, but that is the core of it, through proximity, through having these interactions where we have this understanding that we are both benefiting from it. I think that is the key, because I agree with Guilherme, it's a very, very fast-paced industry. So we need to cut these shortcuts that are very simple, as just having these conversations, to be able to go faster. Otherwise, we're just going to go very, very, very slow and obsolete very fast.
Thank you so much, Álvaro. Same question to Guilherme.
I have a little bit different view. That's good, I think. So there's two different things. There's a technology push and a market push. And the market push is where the Navy, and not only Portuguese Navy, to be honest, all navies can help us to tell what they need. And I don't think the Portuguese Navy, sorry, João, is the only one that knows everything. So all navies are pursuing this kind of thing. So you should know from the market push what the world is doing. And the world, you can know by information, again, data. So going to conference, going to workshops, talk with the navies, not only the Portuguese, but all the other ones in NATO contests. RepMush is a typical example where you can learn a lot from all other navies are doing. So that's the market push, being in touch with them, and they telling, or we see what we have to, what they need. But, and that's because of my maybe academical side, I'm still professor in university, there's the technology push. The clients, so-called clients, in this case the Navy, but Navy is still not our client. So they are maybe facilitators to me, let's say, they are helping a lot. So the clients need to know what we can offer new. And that's the technology push. And that comes mostly from the academic side, from the universities, from the research, from small companies doing stuff or big institutes. So, and those two sides have to be in balance. So you cannot do only what the client wants because it's for today, always. And there's the technology push that is for tomorrow. So, and those two things, it's a balance that's, at least for us in a small SME, we have to be managing. The contact with the academic side, so with students, it's important, or with universities on the technology push, and the contact with the navies is important on the technology push.
Thank you, Guilherme. To finalize, and of course I have to the question upside down to Commandant Piedade. You have already established a test center. Is nice, is very helpful for the industry to test the systems they have developed. But here we are discussing about needs, and how do you foresee that this conversation, this sharing of needs, and the incorporation of new possibilities Navy can offer to the community? How an excellence center that like we have seen being presented last Tuesday can help in that exercise?
There are different things. So, and I think all of my panel colleagues already touched in some of the things that, in my opinion, are really important. So, one of the things is the proximity between all the partners. So we can, since the beginning of the development of new technologies, be side by side and by design, incorporate the needs of interoperability that we will need in the future, because there are a lot of new technologies, We already talked also about the speed of the new technologies that are being introduced, but we have to have in mind that we need to remain interoperable with our allies. So, and that it's one of the barriers that we need to try to overcome. And to overcome the barriers, it's from the beginning to work side by side with the Navy on the design of the new systems. And that is part of the work that we are doing that already was mentioned in the REPMUS and in the operational center, is to try to have the facilities and the resources available for the industry and academia to go there, experiment, and listen from the end users what they need to do to go to the next step, to be interoperable, to be useful in terms of capabilities and developing real capabilities to be used in operations. So the Navy, so when you talk to the Portuguese Navy, and sorry, yeah, you are not just talking to the Portuguese Navy. Yeah, so you are talking to all the other navies, because the vision of the Portuguese Navy is also the vision of the at least the Western and allied navies. And the Portuguese Navy is also a door to other forums, like REPMUS or like Dynamic Messenger, where you can go through the Portuguese Navy and enter those different activities where you can share with other navies, and not just those ones that we have mentioned. Also, the Science and Technology Organization have different groups that probably some of you already know those groups, and the Portuguese Navy can help you enter the groups where the technologies are discussed related to what you are doing. And also in the European Defence Agency, there are other groups. So to try to sum up, everything is about cooperation and working side by side. We can go a little bit faster, but we cannot do it faster alone. We need to do it faster side by side with academia and industry to, since the beginning, integrate the requirements of the Navy and the requirements of interoperability that are the requirements of NATO.
Thank you so much, João. Our time is overdue, so we need to close. I hope this session can be a good starter, a good appetizer for next conversation. Probably next time we have to figure out how to organize it. I have to thank you, all the participants, Guilherme, Álvaro, Nuno, Martin. Thank you for your collaboration, for your participation, and we are, as AED, we are available to bridge these worlds and put them together and push to have a better collaboration, a better cooperation, and increase also the interoperability and the intercommunication within these so different bodies. Thank you so much. We close the session for now, and please look for our program for the coming days and for the coming events.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Nice to meet you all. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.